Chapter 1091. Tenderness like water, beauty like a dream. Rain of flowers, dew of dew, life 1,000 miles away. The ice-cold stone walls emitted a bone-chilling coldness, and the endless whirlpools kept crushing one's consciousness. It was drowsy and hazy, but it was as comfortable as lying on a bed of cotton. It was like sweet wine and a celestial spring, intoxicating one in a dream. A ray of bright light pierced through the clouds and shone into the gloomy ancient demon grave. One of the beams of light fell on a young man. His eyes were closed, and his breathing was even as he lay on the ground, sleeping soundly. The soft light shone on his handsome profile, making him look almost transparent. Perhaps he was affected by the light, but the sleeping Chu Hen frowned. His eyelashes moved slightly, and then his eyelids slowly opened. "Where am I?" With some confusion, Chu Hen blankly sat up from the ground. Not far ahead, a tall and slender figure first came into view. Chu Hen's eyes lit up, and he subconsciously called out, "Miss Qianyu," however, Bai Qianyu didn't seem to hear him. She stood alone beside the broken wall, and in front of her was an abyss. At this moment, the Yama King's demon grave had undergone earth-shattering changes. The entire palace had almost collapsed, and the ground was filled with chasms formed by the cracks in the ground. The ancient platform in the middle was also covered in cracks. Most of the 24 stone pillars that stood under the platform had collapsed, and they were scattered on the ground. Even the stone statue of the Yama King, the master of the demon grave, was covered in cracks. The monstrous demonic aura that permeated the place seemed to have disappeared without a trace. Standing in front of the cliff, Bai Qianyu's hair was as black as ink, and her dress was as white as snow. She was as beautiful as a swan, but there was an inexplicable sadness and faint sorrow in her. She turned around and looked at Chu Hen with indifference. When their eyes met, Chu Hen was slightly startled. Her eyes seemed to contain too many emotions. At the same time, Chu Hen also saw that in Bai Qianyu's hand, there was a sharp sword with dragon patterns flowing around it. Traces of frost intent were emitted from the sword, and there was a dazzling sharpness. The other party wanted to kill him? At this moment, Chu Hen was shocked to find that he was barely clothed. His body was only covered by a thin shirt. Other than that, he had no other clothes on. Pieces of torn clothes were scattered on the ground, like flowers blooming all over the ground, like petals sprinkling down. This? What happened? Chu Hen furrowed his brows, and then he felt a violent dizziness, like a twisting whirlpool mixed with countless messy memory fragments. Then, all the memory fragments were instantly pieced together, and everything that had happened before appeared in his mind. Shocking. Astonishment. Chu Hen's eyes widened. He once again looked at the tattered clothes on the ground, one of which was stained with a trace of dark red blood. The bright colors were a little dazzling. In that instant, Chu Hen's mind went blank. He raised his head guiltily to look at Bai Qianyu's beautiful face, which was enough to bring disaster to countries and people. He gently shook his head, but he couldn't even say a word of apology. Even the words, "I'm sorry," would be particularly ear-piercing. The two of them looked at each other in silence, one with indifference, the other with guilt. After a long time, Chu Hen took a deep breath and said in a low voice, "I will do everything I can to make it up to you." Bai Qianyu's fingers gripped the sword so tightly that her knuckles were faintly white. She looked at Chu Hen's face, which was as if it had been carved by a knife, but she was surprisingly calm as she replied, "Put on your clothes first." Chu Hen was stunned at first. He thought that she would stab him a few times with her sword and then curse him. He didn't expect her to be so calm. After all, in this situation, it would not be too much even if she killed him. With a lot of confusion, Chu Hen immediately took out new clothes and quickly put them on. Then, Bai Qianyu said in an indifferent tone, "Can you look into my eyes?" Chu Hen subconsciously turned around and looked into her eyes. At this moment, Bai Qianyu's eyes quietly released a sacred golden light. The air surged, the space trembled, and a supreme emperor's aura leaked out. Chu Hen's pupils shrank, and he was shocked. Before he could react, several black dots appeared in Bai Qianyu's mysterious golden eyes. The dots rotated in a clockwise direction and chased each other. Suddenly, a burst of dazzling light shone, and a few beams of golden cyclones flowed out from Bai Qianyu's eyes and swept towards Chu Hen's eyes. Chu Hen suddenly felt the space in front of him fall into a state of rotation and distortion, and his consciousness instantly became fuzzy, and his eyes looked dull and lifeless. "Forget what happened between us last night." Bai Qianyu's red lips parted slightly, and her tone was resolute. "Okay." Chu Hen answered dully like a machine. Buzz buzz. Then, the vast aura quickly receded, and the surging golden light in Bai Qianyu's beautiful eyes gradually disappeared, along with a deep sense of helplessness. After about the count of 3, Chu Hen's dull eyes regained their luster. Then, he looked at Bai Qianyu in front of him with a blank face. "Miss Qianyu, what happened to me just now?" Then, he looked around. "Was I controlled by my inner demons again? Did you save me again?" Looking at Chu Hen's natural expression, Bai Qianyu couldn't help but feel a wave of bitterness. "I should go." Bai Qianyu didn't have any explanation, and she wasn't in the mood to explain. "Where are you going?" Chu Hen asked. "To where I should go." She resolutely turned around and at the same time raised her left hand and put the mask in her hand back on. "Today is the last day. We won't meet again." After saying that, Bai Qianyu stepped into the air, and then immediately turned into a wisp of shadow and disappeared. "We won't meet again?" Chu Hen looked at the beautiful figure disappearing into the underground palace with a somewhat deep gaze. She was like a shooting star streaking across the night sky, making one feel a little nostalgic. Just 2 days ago, with a faint smile on the corner of her mouth, she said to him, "Then, this is the first day we met." Before they could get familiar with each other, it was already the last day. Chu Hen smiled bitterly and shook his head, silently looking in the direction where Bai Qianyu disappeared. After a long while, Chu Hen let out a light sigh. His gaze looked around the collapsed surroundings. The entire place was a mess, and the majestic palace buildings no longer existed. The Dao platform was covered in cracks, like a giant spider web. The majestic stone statue of the Yama King was also covered in cracks, and the Lord's aura had disappeared, as if it had forever sunk into the ground. In Chu Hen's mind, he clearly remembered that he had triggered a huge restriction last night. Then, he was imprisoned by the talisman formation in the restriction, and the mysterious power of the stone statue of the Yama King also poured into his body. While he was half awake, his inner demon started to devour, and he once again saw the evil god. "If I'm not wrong, I'm afraid that the remaining murderous aura of the Yama King here has once again triggered the summoning of the heavenly chi token to the evil god. The heavenly chi token, the heavenly chi token." Chu Hen muttered to himself, secretly shaking his head. In the end, he still underestimated the power of the heavenly chi token. While this thing allowed him to obtain unlimited killing power, it was also constantly nibbling away at his heart. If he didn't find a way to suppress it, sooner or later, he would be possessed one day. "Wait, my cultivation level?" Chu Hen's heart suddenly trembled. He raised his hands and his fingers condensed. A transcendent aura that was several times stronger than before suddenly gushed out from his body. Bang! The fierce aura spread out from under his feet, and the ground collapsed inch by inch. The Dao platform, which was already covered in cracks, suddenly collapsed from the center. What a strong power! Chu Hen was shocked by himself. The peak of the 9th level of the Sky Profound Realm. In just one day, he had jumped 2 levels from the 7th level of the Sky Profound Realm. Moreover, even though he was only at the 9th level of the Sky Profound Realm, the strength of his true inner energy was not weaker than that of an ancient realm expert. In terms of overall fighting strength, it was unknown how many times stronger he was. While he was excited, Chu Hen once again released the true inner energy in his body. The vigorous power flowed outside his body, like a layer of dark flame. "This is?" Chu Hen's eyelids twitched, and he looked at the dark flame mixed with the golden true inner energy. It was domineering and revealed a cold and ruthless aura. The aura of this power is, suddenly raising his head, Chu Hen's eyes were filled with shock as he stared at the incomparably huge, cracked statue of the Yama King in front of him. Chapter 1092. This is the power of Sinluo? Whoosh! An incorporeal and vigorous aura surged out. Chu Hen looked at the dark golden true essence that covered his arm. The originally pure true essence seemed to have mutated at this moment, as it was fused with an extremely overbearing and ruthless power. Chu Hen's eyebrows lightly wrinkled as he looked at the Yama King's statue that was covered in cracks in front of him. His mind was racing. Was this a coincidence? Or was it a deliberate pull from the unseen world? Is it because of the Qi Tianling? Chu Hen thought of the evil god again. It was as if coming here and triggering the restriction in the demon tomb was not a coincidence, but no matter how he thought about it, he couldn't figure it out. Chu Hen shook his head. This feeling was like being at the edge of a whirlpool, and he could fall in at any time and never get out again. Fortunately, he was clear-headed now. There was still hope that he could suppress the Qi Tianling. Moreover, his cultivation had broken through to the 9th level of the profound heaven realm, and he was only one step away from the eternal realm. This was definitely a good thing. Chu Hen's eyes flashed with determination. His spirit was soaring. He faced the Yama King statue with an air of arrogance and said, "It doesn't matter if this is a coincidence or not. From now on, the power you left behind belongs to me." A burst of powerful airflow swept past, and Chu Hen instantly turned into an afterimage, disappearing from where he stood. The huge underground demon grave returned to its previous deathly silence and gloom. What was different was that what was left behind was only destruction. Whoosh! Facing a dazzling white light, Chu Hen felt as if he had escaped from a 1,000-year dungeon. All the depression in his heart was swept away by the fresh air and bright environment. There was a lush forest and endless mountains. Although there was no bright sunshine, flowers, or birds in this area of the immortal and devil tomb, the atmosphere outside was completely different from the underground demon tomb. Before Chu Hen could enjoy the relief of escaping from death, a violent commotion suddenly came from a certain direction. Chu Hen was slightly startled. He turned around and looked to the side. That was the most central area of the tomb of immortals and devils. Demonic Qi soared to the sky. Above the void, numerous black shadows were engaged in an incomparably fierce battle. Thick dark clouds covered the sky, and the space was shaking. Even from a dozen miles away, one could feel the fierceness of the battle. Only then did Chu Hen remember that the battle between humans and demons hadn't ended before he entered the demon tomb of the Yama King. Based on the current situation, it was probably getting more and more intense. After thinking for a while, Chu Hen's figure moved, and he flew directly to the place where the battle broke out. At this moment, the battle between humans and demons had already spread to the demon Emperor's tomb. Mountain ranges were flattened and split apart, and rivers were buried and severed. The mountain forest was reduced to dust, the rivers flowed in reverse, and the corpses of countless demonic beasts piled up like a mountain below. The rain of blood drifted, and the wind howled, the roars of the beasts resounded through the sky like thunder. When Chu Hen arrived in front of the battlefield, the situation in front of him was truly shocking. Compared to before, a new batch of human experts had joined the battle. Both sides occupied the mountain camps on the north and south sides respectively. The two armies fought fiercely, and the humans and demons fought each other. The black shadows in the sky splashed a series of sparks and fiery rain. At a glance, there were a few familiar figures among them. The heaven-raising sword pointed at Li Yuanliang with a peerless aura. Using his qi as a sword, he moved like the wind among the beasts. Lu Yue's body was covered in a 6-colored feather dress, and she was proud, cold, and gorgeous while displaying her lethal elegance. 10-feathered demon blade Li Yanqing was as ferocious as a wolf. His blade was like a rainbow as he charged forward. Young Master Qingqing's Shao alliance was also unstoppable. His saint physique overpowered the heavens, like iron chains crossing the river. Like a huge net, the chains were pulled apart, rendering the demonic beasts unable to advance or retreat. In the end, they were mercilessly harvested. On the demon clan's side, the Scarlet Dragon Demon Venerable and the Blood Bat Demon Venerable also displayed their prowess. Apart from these two powerful Demon Venerable, two other ferocious beasts with towering demonic auras joined the battle. One of the beasts was a giant snake with 7 heads. The 7-headed snake was ferocious and terrifying, as if it was a ferocious beast from ancient times. Looking from afar, the 7 heads could spit fire, wind blades, lightning, poisonous fog, and other powerful elemental powers. Many human experts were killed before they could even get close to it. There was also a huge beast that looked like an ape. Its crimson fur looked as if it had been soaked in blood, and a strong murderous aura emanated from its body. The power of its punch was enough to shatter mountains and crack the earth. Even if it was an expert at the sky-profound realm, he would still be blasted into a cloud of blood mist by its fist force. Looking at the crimson ape, Chu Hen couldn't help but think of the pet he had taken in the victorious East State, the little monkey. At that time, he had always thought that it was just an ordinary little demon. Later, in the ancient Desolation Heaven realm, Chu Hen accidentally summoned the little monkey with the revolving myriad beasts picture and witnessed it transform into an earth-shattering demonic ape. Later on, in the battle against the Thunder Saint Palace, the little monkey displayed a shockingly strong combat power. However, Chu Hen was in a hurry to leave the eastern continent to find Luo Mengchong, so he didn't have time to verify the little monkey's species. Could it be that the little monkey was from the same species as the demonic ape in front of him? Soon, Chu Hen shook his head in denial. Although the two of them looked similar, the little monkey's fur was pure gold, while the demon venerable in front of him had a completely different crimson fur. Moreover, the aura they released was different, so they probably weren't of the same species. Thinking of this, Chu Hen couldn't help but regret not bringing the little monkey along. Although he could summon the revolving myriad beasts picture, there was a distance limit, so he didn't know if he could summon it again. Of course, now was not the time to think about this. Although the battle was intense, the formation of both sides was not chaotic. Sword light crisscrossed, and saber waves covered the sky. Waves after waves of ferocious energy shock waves collided like a meteor shower that filled the sky. In the chaotic scene, Chu Hen still caught a glimpse of an elegant and refined special figure with a glance. She wasn't a member of the demon race, and she didn't join this chaotic battle. Bai Qinyu stood quietly on a cliff in the back of the demon race army, as if he were an outsider. He was quiet, as if he didn't care about the current situation at all. Looking at the masked Bai Qinyu, Chu Hen's eyes were filled with complex emotions. He couldn't help but recall what Bai Qinyu had said, "Today is the last day, and we won't meet again in the future." Boom! Suddenly, a violent tremor spread out from the back of the demon race army. The mountains and rivers shook and the earth cracked. Tens of thousands of demon beasts raised their heads and let out deafening roars. At the same time, Li Yuanliang, Lu Wuyue, and the other human experts all had cautious expressions on their faces. "The critical moment has come," young Master Qingqing said in a deep voice. "Howl! Roar!" Tens of thousands of demon beasts roared together, and the wind howled. A dense nebula that blotted out the sky surged in the 9th heaven. The mountains below cracked, and rocks collapsed. Under countless serious gazes, the earth cracked layer by layer, and a vast and majestic red light pillar soared into the sky. Magnificent buildings collapsed like pieces of paper, and buildings that had been built for thousands of years were reduced to ashes. The tomb of the demon god opened. The world lost its splendor. Storms swept in all directions. More than a dozen demon beasts surrounded an iron cage and rose into the sky from the broken ground. The bars of the luxurious and resplendent iron cage were engraved with intricate and mysterious runes. The four corners of the iron cage were all connected by heavy chains. It was obvious that the demon race attached great importance to this, and there was actually a person locked in that iron cage. Chu-Hen focused and looked at it. His complexion suddenly changed. The person locked in the cage was... Chapter 1093. That's... Mu Feng? Rumble. Thunder rumbled in the 9 heavens, and the wind howled through the mountains and rivers. A myriad of beasts roared, and demonic energy rose. Chu-Hen had an astonished expression as he looked at the familiar figure in the iron cage, and his heart was filled with bewilderment. Looking at it from afar, the cage was surrounded by over 10 demonic beasts with powerful auras, and every single demonic beast had an iron chain tied around their bodies. The iron chains were connected to the cage, and the runes on the chains flickered with light, swayed with inscriptions, and emitted an extremely strong fluctuation of energy within the cage. Mu Feng's hands held tightly onto the bars, and his eyes were crimson red. The veins on his arms and forehead bulged out, and his throat ceaselessly emitted a low and deep roar like that of a wild beast. Even more shocking was that this person's body actually emitted an extremely shocking and monstrous demonic energy. This fellow... Chu-Hen was even more puzzled, and he even suspected if that person was Mu Feng. Just when Chu-Hen was about to flash out to investigate, a familiar low voice entered into his ears from somewhere behind him. Chu-Hen, we're over here, Howsy? Chu-Hen was shocked in his heart, and he turned around to look. Sure enough, he saw the person standing at the edge of a precipitous mountain, and there were 2 other familiar figures by his side. It was precisely Han Ichuan and Xiao Shaowan that were with Chu-Hen earlier. Chu-Hen's figure flashed, and he instantly flashed to arrive before the 3 of them. You're still alive, that's great. Where have you been for so long? Han Ichuan heaved a sigh of relief from the bottom of his heart. Xiao Shaowan blinked her eyes. I knew you wouldn't die so easily. Then do you know that big sister who wears a mask? Why did you help her twice in a row? Chu-Hen shook his head, indicating that he didn't want to talk about this now. After that, he looked at Howsy, who frowned tightly. What happened? That person is Mu Feng? Howsy nodded solemnly and gave his affirmation. It's really him. An extremely uneasy feeling welled up in his heart as he stared at Howsy. The latter sighed helplessly and said, According to our previous agreement, after we parted ways with you, we went straight to the tomb of immortals and demons. Unexpectedly, the situation in the tomb of immortals and demons was very chaotic. On the first day, the 2 of them got separated. Howsy glanced at Han Ichuan and Xiao Shaowan. Chu-Hen knew all of this. On his first day in the tomb of immortals and demons, Xiao Shaowan's transformation happened. She transformed into a giant beast and almost killed Han Ichuan. The rest of us will split into 2 teams and continue to search for Miss Meng Xiang amidst the chaos. I'll be in one team with Mu Feng, while Senior West Wind will lead Miss Yi Yao and Miss Xian Shuang in the other team. We've agreed that 5 days later, regardless of whether we find Miss Meng Xiang or not, we'll meet up at the last location, the Deep Star State. The current tomb of immortals and demons was in such a mess, it was indeed not a good place to stay for long. In 5 days' time, they would be able to search almost all the surrounding areas. After confirming that Luo Mengchang was not here, there was no need to waste any more time. Just get to the point, Chu-Hen said. Howsy turned to look at the metal cage behind the army of beasts. An incredibly shocking energy wave spread out continuously. Mu Feng was like a trapped beast in the cage. Although it was a little funny, no one could laugh at it. After splitting into 2 teams, Mu Feng and I searched for Miss Meng Xiang together. We didn't find anything, so our final target was the ruins guarded by the beasts. Although we knew that the possibility of Miss Meng Xiang being there was very low, you know. Mu Feng likes to cause trouble. Moreover, I was also curious about the secrets of the demon race, so I followed him in. Housie laughed bitterly with regret. When we first started, we didn't know that it was the tomb of the demon race emperor. Moreover, there weren't many human experts at that time, and the demon race's defenses weren't particularly strict. There were still gaps in the outer regions of the tomb. However, the closer we got to the center, the tighter the defenses were. Both of us knew that we weren't strong enough, so we decided to stop. But what we didn't expect was that, in the process of retreating, we accidentally triggered some kind of restriction. The restriction caused quite a large area of buildings to collapse. Coupled with the monstrous demonic aura that randomly leaked out, we inexplicably fell into an underground palace. Underground palace? Chu Hen frowned slightly, and there was a hint of emotion in his eyes. Roar! Roar! At this moment, the battle between both sides had completely erupted. The black mass of humans and beasts were like an overwhelming swarm of moths. A series of violent impacts intersected like rainbows, and meteorites collided with each other. Violent turbulence swept through the sky. Our battle is not over yet. Li Yuanliang pointed his sword at the sky, and his aura was like a rainbow. As he moved his finger, beams of powerful light lingered around his body like the shadow of a dragon. Humph! You're courting death! The red dragon demon Venerable shouted. Before he finished speaking, he instantly transformed into his original form. The red flame flood dragon's ferocious aura shook the sky. He spat out a scorching dragon's breath, and a majestic pillar of fire came crashing down like a meteorite, blasting straight at Li Yuanliang. Rolling waves of heat whistled over. The air flowed with a bone-chilling heat. In the face of such an attack, Li Yuanliang turned a blind eye. At the same time, his body was quickly dyed with a layer of illusory transparent luster, shadow holy body. Whoosh! Like sand being filtered through water, Li Yuanliang's body directly rushed into the pillar of fire, and then flew out unscathed. The moment he passed through the dragon's breath, Li Yuanliang's speed increased rapidly. Like a meteor arrow, his fingertips turned into a sword shadow, and he went straight for the red dragon demon Venerable's head. The red dragon demon Venerable's eyes were surging with flames, and he directly took out his huge dragon claws. The sharp claws were like giant curved hooks, and they swept towards Li Yuanliang. Bang! Two incomparably ferocious forces suddenly erupted from within. The disorderly sword-light phantoms blossomed like a rain of flowers, and the ferocious cyclone of power swept out rapidly. The power of mountains was even stronger than a torrent of water. The red dragon demon Venerable's body shook violently. While blocking Li Yuanliang's attack, one of the hooks on his sharp claws was directly penetrated by a beam of light. Roar! The red dragon demon Venerable let out an angry roar. It was really infuriating to be injured by a human. At the same time, young Master Qingqing's Shao Alliance also engaged the blood bat demon Venerable head-on. The fatal elegance Lu Weiyue also found the seven-headed giant snake demon Venerable. The ten-feathered demon blade Li Yanqing faced the scarlet-haired ferocious ape head-on. "Heh, I'm going to skin you." Li Yanqing's sarcasm was tinged with a hint of mania. The red dragon demon Venerable's belligerent personality was a perfect match for the ferocious ape's violence. Ignorant fool! The ferocious ape threw out a punch. Its huge body was like a huge mountain in front of Li Yanqing, and the wantonly surging demonic power was comparable to a surging torrent. Bang! The ferocious fist force landed solidly on Li Yanqing's body. The latter was like a falling meteorite, flying backward rapidly, and slamming heavily into the mountain wall behind him. Layers of cracks spread on the mountain wall, and every inch of rock exploded. In the blink of an eye, half of the mountain was smashed into pieces by the inertia attached to Li Yanqing's body. Boom! Immediately after, countless rocks flew into the sky, and a terrifying aura surged into the sky. Li Yanqing, surrounded by a fierce aura, directly rushed out of the pile of rocks. Hee, not bad, but it's a pity that it's still lacking a little. The ghost cultivator's sacred bloodline erupted, and Li Yanqing's arms were covered with dragon-like veins. His eyes turned red, his black hair turned white, and his teeth revealed a sharp gleam. Dragging the saber with both arms, he pounced on the ferocious ape again. The world was in chaos and the flames of war spread. Not only did the battle between the two sides not weaken with the passage of time, but it became even more intense and chaotic. All of this was because of the opening of the demon god's tomb and the appearance of the metal cage. We accidentally triggered a restriction of the demon god's tomb, and inexplicably appeared in an underground palace. Haozi gave a brief summary. The current situation did not allow him to explain some of the details. Mu Feng and I wandered around the underground palace for a long time. The structure of the place was like a maze. Because we were afraid of being discovered by the demon clan, we did not dare to go back, and could only continuously explore the innermost part. Eventually, we entered the center of the underground palace. Haozi's tone gradually became solemn, and his face was surging with unease and fear. He looked up at Chu Hen, clenched his fists, and said, "Mu Feng accidentally fell into a blood pool in the central underground palace." Blood pool? Chu Hen's expression changed slightly. At the side, Han Ichuan and Qiao Shaowan also had solemn expressions. Haozi's brows were tightly knitted together, as if he was recalling the most terrifying thing. The blood pool was very thick and very dark. Once Mu Feng fell in, he was in extreme pain. I really wanted to pull him up, but once he came into contact with the blood in the pool, there was a bone-piercing pain. Haozi raised his right arm. Half of his palm was already a bloody mess, and even a bit of white bone could be vaguely seen. It was a ghastly sight. Chu Hen's pupils shrank. Han Ichuan and Qiao Shaowan could not help but feel their scalps go numb. "This power is really terrifying," Han Ichuan exclaimed. "That's it, Mu Feng is still alive?" Qiao Shaowan was slightly surprised. Haozi placed his palm behind him. I watched helplessly as Mu Feng struggled in the blood pool, and I could not save him. I thought he would die in there. But who would have thought that at the deepest part of the blood pool, a skeleton would crawl out? Skeleton? Han Ichuan and Qiao Shaowan looked at each other. Only Chu Hen had a solemn expression. "What kind of skeleton?" Han Ichuan asked. Haozi shook his head. "I don't know, but I'm sure that it's not a human skeleton." That skeleton wrapped around Mu Feng's body and forcefully drilled into his body. Although Haozi's description was very simple, the few of them could not help but feel their scalps go numb. A skeleton forcibly drilled into a person's body. One could imagine how horrifying that scene was. What happened after that? Qiao Shaowan asked anxiously. After that, the entire underground palace began to collapse. I thought I was dead for sure, but Mu Feng suddenly jumped out of the blood pool and used the Buddha demon sword to cut open a passage in the underground palace. He then told me to leave immediately. He was very scary at that time. The few of them were shocked again. Then why didn't he leave? Qiao Shaowan asked again. Haozi shook his head. I don't know, I was forcefully thrown out by him. I took advantage of the chaos to escape and witnessed the battle. Just when I was at a loss, I met the two of them. After listening to Haozi's story, Chu Hen could not help but fall into deep thought. The direction of the situation was really unimaginable. Previously, he had learned from Bai Qianyu that the purpose of the Demon Clan's trip was to retrieve the Demon Emperor's skeleton that the Demon Emperor had left behind thousands of years ago. Naturally, the experts of the various sects were there to stop the Demon Clan's action. One could imagine that the Demon Emperor's skeleton was not to be underestimated. According to Haozi's story, coupled with Mu Feng who was trapped in the cage, the skeleton in the pool of blood was most likely the so-called Demon Emperor's skeleton. By a freak combination of factors, the Demon Emperor's skeleton actually fell into Mu Feng's hands. He was clearly just an outsider, but he was pushed to the heart of the struggle. Regardless of whether Mu Feng fell into the hands of humans or the hands of the Demon Clan, he would still be embroiled in this matter. What to do? With just the few of them, they could not even intervene in the current situation, let alone save him. The most important point was the current Mu Feng still the previous Mu Feng? Just when Chu Hen was at his wit's end, the demon clan had already begun to move. A demon with a wolf's head and a human's body covered in black flames led the beasts and said, "Retreat! Roar!" All the beasts roared at the sky, as if they were celebrating the return of the demon emperor's skeleton. In an instant, many powerful monstrous beasts surrounded the iron cage that held Mu Feng. A majestic group quickly retreated from the battlefield. Bai Qianyu also followed the team and left the battlefield. The 4 demon lords stayed behind to delay the battle. Seeing that the demon clan was about to retreat, the experts of the various sects all unleashed fierce attacks. Li Yuanliang, Lu Weiyue, Xiao Meng, Li Yanqing, and the others continued to fight faster, trying to force their way through. However, the 4 demon lords were not ordinary people, and they did not give in. Boom! But at this moment, an earth-shattering wave was suddenly set off in the sky that was shrouded in dark clouds. The storm nebula vortex covered the sky and the earth, and countless dazzling golden beams of light pierced through the clouds and dyed the sky and the earth. This aura, Li Yuanliang's eyes lit up. Xiao Meng also chuckled lightly. "He, you're finally willing to come out." Chu Hen, who was about to take action, could not help but frown. He looked at the stirring nebula in the sky, and a hint of coldness surged in his eyes. This powerful aura had already appeared once before. Xianyuan Seal. Chapter 1094. Rumble, it shook the heavens, and the nebula suddenly changed. An extremely powerful and shocking aura once again swept through the mountains, rivers, and forests below. This aura? Chu Hen furrowed his brows. He stared at the dazzling light in the void, and his eyes were filled with coldness. The mysterious man finally showed himself. Buzz. In the next moment, a majestic force that was like a mountain came crashing down from the heavens and the earth. The world trembled, and thunder roared and storms raged. A giant light beam that pierced through the heavenly river suddenly fell from the sky, and it blasted toward the 7-headed serpent with the power of a thunderbolt. In the face of this sudden powerful attack, the huge serpent beast's body straightened. 7 pairs of cold snake eyes reflected the sharp cold glint. Bang! In an instant, an extremely heavy sound reverberated in the sky. The mighty golden light beam was like a divine punishment that fell from the heavens, and it hit the giant serpent demon Venerable's huge body. The aftermath of the earth-shattering force was like a surging torrent. It was like a concentrated energy vortex, and a piercingly cold shock wave swept out. Bang! Under everyone's shocked gazes, the giant serpent's huge body was sent flying, and it landed heavily on a mountain below. Rocks collapsed, and dust rose into the air. Broken scales mixed with traces of blood splattered everywhere. Immediately after, a dazzling light beam shot out from the chaotic energy storm again. The light beam pierced through the sky like an aurora, and it instantly chased after the giant serpent. The scarlet dragon demon Venerable's expression changed drastically, and he shouted, "7-headed demon Venerable!" The 7-headed serpent's body suddenly trembled, and before it could react, the light beam penetrated 2 of its heads. Bang, bang! The 2 heads that were penetrated by the light beam directly exploded into a cloud of blood mist, and blood immediately gushed out from the severed neck. The remaining 5 heads all let out sharp hissing sounds. He dominated everyone. He defeated the demon Venerable with just one move. Even Li Yuanliang, Lu Weiyue, and the other geniuses were shocked. Buzz, the powerful aura became increasingly clear, and the chaotic cyclone that filled the world quickly dissipated. Surrounded by golden light patterns, a figure emitting an extraordinary aura suddenly appeared in the sky. His sharp gaze was like a blade, domineering and proud. 10-feathered demon Blade Li Yanqing's eyes narrowed. His hands clenched into fists, and his throat rolled as he spat out a few words. War God Palace. Chui Lai, boom! A sudden clap of thunder filled the sky, and his heart surged. War God Palace. These 3 words were like a bolt from the blue that struck everyone's mind. Everyone's faces were filled with awe and respect. Heavens, even the people from the War God Palace have come. Furthermore, it's the youngest elder of the War God Palace. Killing the 7-headed demonic sovereign with a single move, Elder Chui Lai's cultivation is truly terrifying. War God Palace? The youngest elder? Not far away, Chu Hen's expression darkened. That person seemed to be in his 30s or 40s, and his attitude was as arrogant as a sovereign, as if everything was under his control. I knew it. Liyuan Liang nodded to himself. When he saw the Xianyuan sealing tactic earlier, he had already guessed the person's identity. However, he did not expect the person to be an elder. He had not shown himself since the beginning. He was waiting for the demon god's skeleton to appear. Bastard! Looking at the heavily injured 7-headed demonic sovereign on the ground, the fearsome ape with blood-colored fur was enraged. Along with the eruption of a towering aura, the fearsome ape's body was bathed in flames, and he threw a punch at Chui Lai. Go to hell, boom! The billowing flames were earth-shattering. The rapidly spinning flames were like a dragon python circling around the fearsome ape's arm and gathered on its fist. In an instant, a huge fireball of energy gathered on the fearsome ape's fist. A strong wind swept out, and a piercingly cold attack was aimed at Chui Lai. This punch could overturn rivers and seas, and it could destroy rivers and streams. The numerous human experts behind Chui Lai were all pushed back by this extraordinary and domineering aura. However, Chui Lai did not even frown. His slightly raised eyes were filled with ridicule. A mayfly trying to shake a tree, as soon as he finished speaking, a dazzling light pattern bloomed on Chui Lai's body. The light patterns crisscrossed like a gorgeous big net. Bang! With a loud sound, the fist force that could destroy mountains and rivers surged down and collided with the gorgeous big net in front of Chui Lai. The space in front of both of them was distorted. A huge semi-arc-shaped light screen appeared in front of the vicious ape's huge fist. However, what was incomparably shocking was that such a terrifying power only caused the gorgeous net to cave in. It was actually unable to break through it in the next second. Chui Lai had already disappeared from his spot. Like the bright moon in the sky, Chui Lai stood proudly in the sky. He immediately threw out his palm. Tens of thousands of rays of divine light fell, and a luxurious and solid giant palm print fell down like a fiend god's giant hand. It landed heavily on the fearsome ape's body. Bang! The mountains and rivers shook and the space trembled. The surging palm force landed steadily. Waves of vast air rippled along the fearsome ape's huge body and swept in all directions. The violent destructive force continuously attacked the other party's body. It was like a flying mountain, smashing into a pile of rocks, and spitting out a mouthful of blood. Demon Venerable Yen Luo. Scarlet Dragon Demon Venerable was both shocked and angry. In the blink of an eye, 2 Demon Venerables had been severely injured. It was really unexpected. The cultivation of the person in front of him was too deep and unfathomable. Retreat. If this continued, there would not be any suspense. Scarlet Dragon Demon Venerable immediately gave the order to retreat. At the same time, he opened his huge mouth, and a thick dragon's breath surged out like rolling waves of fire. Blood Bat Demon Venerable also lifted his wide sleeve. Accompanied by sharp whistling sounds, a dense swarm of blood-colored bats rushed towards the people in front of him like black smoke. In an instant, the entire area was enveloped in a thick fog and swarms of bats. All the demonic beasts did not have the slightest reluctance to leave. Taking advantage of the temporary cover, they quickly retreated. Hiss! The severely injured 7-headed Demon Venerable and Demon Venerable Yen Luo did not say a word. One after another, they fled through the forest and the cliff. At the front, the group of demonic beasts surrounded the cage that imprisoned Mu Feng and moved forward at their fastest speed. At this moment, Mu Feng was lying in the iron cage like a pile of mud. An endless amount of ferocious demonic aura was emitted from his body. The complicated talisman inscriptions engraved on the iron cage flickered continuously and flickered between brightness and darkness. The atmosphere was extremely tense. Scarlet Dragon Demon Venerable and the others have caught up. A demonic beast with leopard stripes on its body that looked like a human said in a deep voice. What's the situation? A demonic beast with a human body and a wolf head asked. It's very troublesome. Demon Venerable Yen Luo and seven-headed Demon Venerable are injured. The humans have sent powerful reinforcements. What? The wolf-head demonic beast's expression changed. It turned around and saw that the army of demonic beasts was in a panic. What was worse was that the human experts were still chasing after them. Prepare for reinforcements. The wolf-head demonic beast said. Continue forward. However, an indifferent voice stopped the wolf-head demonic beast's actions. The wolf-head demonic beast looked at the masked young figure not far away in shock. Lady Bai Yu, if we don't turn back, we still have a chance to leave. Bai Qianyu's tone was very calm. Like her pair of clear eyes, no one could tell that she was emotional. At the same time, her words caused the wolf-head demonic beast to feel a sense of danger. Indeed, even the 4 demon venerables had fled in panic. How could they turn the situation around if they returned? It clenched its teeth and waved its claws. Speed up and continue forward. We must bring the demon god skeleton back. Roar! Roar! The demonic beasts roared in unison. They galloped and howled. The vanguard troops that were holding Mu Feng in custody retreated at top speed. The troops at the back were gradually closing in on the pursuers. The human experts chased after them. Many demonic beasts that had fallen behind were instantly killed. At the back, Chu Hen, Haozi, Han Ichuan, Xiao Shaowan and the rest could only follow them. What should we do? The 4 of us can't save Mu Feng at all, Xiao Shaowan said. The 3 of them were silent. How could they not understand the situation? However, they couldn't just watch as Mu Feng was taken away step by step. They had no other choice but to follow them. Boom! Bang! Continuous shock waves exploded in the sky. Under the leadership of the War God Palace's elder Cui Lai and the 4 geniuses with divine physiques, the experts from the various sects were like an invincible sword that was aimed at the back of the demon army. One demonic beast after another was killed by the pursuers. The 4 demon venerables were extremely anxious. The situation was extremely tense. If this continued, the mission in the Tomb of Immortals and Devils would not only fail, but the demons would also suffer heavy losses. Speed up. Don't fight. The Red Dragon Demon Venerables shouted. As long as we cross the Heaven Ravine Ridge, they can't do anything to us. Cui Lai, who was behind them, sneered. Not to mention crossing the Heaven Ravine Ridge, even if you return to your lair in the demon territory, we will still slaughter all of you. Bastard! The demon venerables Yen Luo was enraged. He wanted to turn around and fight. The blood bat demon venerables hurriedly stopped him. Don't be provoked by him. Let's go. The demon venerables Yen Luo's eyes turned cold. He clenched his fist and leaped over a mountain. Cui Lai's sharp eyes flashed with a cold light. His majestic aura surged out like a storm. In an instant, a powerful pressure pressed forward. Then, a single palm was raised, and an earth-shattering reverse airflow swept over with the momentum of returning to the cage. Sand and stones flew, and the forest collapsed. The reverse airflow was extremely violent. The demonic beasts in front of them immediately moved forward against the wind. Their speed was greatly reduced. Some of the weaker demonic beasts were even directly swept back by the reverse airflow. Damn it! The severely injured Honorable Demon Xing Luo and the 7-headed demon Honored Demon were under tremendous pressure. Pieces of flying rocks flew in the opposite direction and smashed onto their bodies. The 2 Honorable Demon Honored Demons were already covered in cuts and bruises. Now they were even worse off. He. The 10-feathered demon blade Li Yanqing let out a cold laugh. Then, a towering aura exploded from him. He dragged his blade and slashed at the demon venerables Yen Luo. I'll take your life. At the same time, the Qingqing young master, Xiao Meng, also leaped into the air toward the 7-headed demon venerables. Shimmering chains shot out from behind him. The runes on the chains swayed. The 2 demon venerables were about to die. The demonic beasts on the other side were infuriated. However, they were powerless to change the situation. All of a sudden, the cold air blended. Roar! The clear and melodious howl of a fox suddenly reverberated through the mountains and valleys. Everyone's hearts trembled. It was as if their souls were touched. In an instant, the sky changed. The wind and clouds surged. It was like a divine rainbow that pierced through the galaxy. A huge majestic sword pillar flew across the sky. It flew toward the mountain behind the demon venerables Yen Luo and the 7-headed demon venerables, a sword that froze 19 states. The high-pitched voice spread across the sky. The majestic sword pillar slashed down like a rainbow, crashing into the mountain range below with an earth-shattering momentum. Rumble, the earth exploded. The sword energy was numb. The entire mountain range exploded in an instant, and a terrifying torrent-like aura swept towards the experts in front of it. Sword-light phantoms that blotted out the sky tore through the air, and dense rocks of all sizes smashed down, like a raging storm was about to hit. Everyone's expression changed. They trembled. Li Yanqing and Xiao Meng, who wanted to kill the 2 demon venerables, were forced back by the violent force. Waves of air surged like a tsunami. Even Cui Lai, the elder of the god of war palace, took a few steps back. What a terrifying aura! Everyone was shocked. The demons were shocked. The 7-headed demon venerables Yen Luo and the demon venerables were even more shocked. Roar, the howl of a fox. In the void of the 9th heaven, a huge green fox shadow quietly appeared. Under the green fox shadow, on top of the broken cliff, a figure exuding a demonic aura appeared. The figure wore a purple mink fur coat and a white fox fur collar. His long black hair fluttered in the wind. His face was handsome and demonic. His eyes were narrow and charming. He was a man, but he had a face that even women would feel ashamed of. He stood proudly on top of the cliff. He held a 3-foot-long sword in his hand. The body of the sword was as smooth as jade. The blade was curved and there were streaks of lightning circling around the sword. Such an aura was breathtaking. Cui Lai's eyes flashed coldly. He said in a cold voice, "Tell me your name." The handsome man nodded slightly, looking down at everyone with a condescending attitude. Chapter 1095. Fox of the Green Hill. Jun Jianga. His voice was cold and aloof. Devilishly charming, devilishly handsome, this was a kind of innate aloofness, innate superiority and aloofness. The sharp sword in his hand was as sharp as lightning. Everyone present couldn't help but stare at his devilishly charming face in a daze. He was like jade, and his young master was unparalleled. That was the most appropriate description for him. When they heard the words Fox of the Green Hill, Elder Cui Lai of the War God Palace, Li Yuanliang, Lu Yue, Xiao Meng, and Li Yanqing were all moved. Everyone else was even more shocked. The Fox of the Green Hill? The Fox of the Green Hill actually exists in this world. The wind howled like a fox's cry. Jun Jianga turned to the 4 demon sovereigns behind him and said, "You guys leave first, leave first?" All the human experts furrowed their brows. Could it be that the other party wanted to stop all of them with his own strength? How arrogant! However, the 4 demon sovereigns did not hesitate at all. They nodded solemnly and led the demon army to retreat without looking back. There wasn't even a word of instruction, it was extremely straightforward. Humph. Elder Cui Lai of the War God Palace showed a hint of disdain and mockery. "I'd like to see what kind of powerful ability you have." Whoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, Cui Lai leaped up and a monstrous and majestic aura erupted from his body. The terrifying aura was like a shocking tsunami that came crashing down like a mountain, crushing toward the fox of the green hill in front of him with the power to topple mountains and overturn seas, rumble. The earth collapsed and the forest cracked. Countless cracks appeared on the cliff under Jun Jiang's feet. The space where he was distorted and a powerful pressure surged from all directions. However, Jun Jiang was unmoved in the face of such a powerful attack from Cui Lai. There was not a trace of panic on his aloof face. The chilly airflow filled the sky and the earth, and the wind was strong. The rain of flowers suddenly fell on the world like snow. White feathers scattered between heaven and earth and surrounded the two. Cui Lai's eyes turned cold. His murderous intent was released and he raised his palm. The ferocious power that was like a raging sea was like a torrent that pierced through the sky, turned into ashes. As the vast and violent power swept down, the mountain rocks crumbled inch by inch and shattered into fine powder. Roar! Suddenly, a fox's howl tore through the sky. Jun Jiang flipped his sword-wielding hand and dragged the sword with one hand. Whoosh! A rapid wind-breaking sound rang out as he instantly disappeared from where he stood, leaving behind an afterimage. It was dazzling and resplendent like a ray of light that tore through the night sky. In the next second, Cui Lai's pupils faintly trembled, only to see that around him, 5 green fox shadows had shockingly appeared. Everyone's heart skipped a beat. Without any time to react, the 5 fox shadows dragged a white sword glare behind them and charged at Cui Lai, who was at the center. The sound of air being cut was especially clear. 5 fox shadows intertwined around Cui Lai, shuttling back and forth elegantly, flickering like the stars. 3,000 guests were intoxicated by the flowers in the hall. One sword froze 19 provinces. Cui Lai's pupils constricted into a single point. A string of blood rained down as a neatly cut arm was severed from the other party's shoulder, flying straight out. What? In an instant, everyone present had their eyes wide open and their faces pale. How could this be? Roar! The fox howled in the sky, a huge green fox shadow overlooking the mountains and rivers below. At this moment, Jun Jiang had already returned to his original position. His posture was ramrod straight, his expression was cold, and his sword was still held diagonally, as if he had not moved at all. He stared coldly at the panicking crowd in front of him, looking up to the sky and singing, "Who can take a blow from my sword? Who can take a blow from my sword?" No one dared to answer with his imposing manner. He cut off Cui Lai's arm with one sword. With such a magnificent momentum, even Li Yuanliang, Xiao Meng, Lu Yue, and Li Yanqing, the 4 geniuses with saint physiques, could not move forward in the rear area. Chu Hen, Han Yichuan, Haozi, and Qiao Shaowan all looked shocked. What terrifying strength! If he wanted to, he would have killed the other party with that sword just now. Han Yichuan shook his head and exclaimed. No one denied it. Huh? Cui Lai, whose face was contorted from the pain of losing his arm, caught the arm that had flown out first. His eyes were bloodshot as he stared at Jun Jiang in front of him with extreme reluctance, and he bellowed in a deep voice, "The Fox of the Green Hills. You're indeed one of the strongest demon clans." I, Cui Lai, have learned. The disdain and sarcasm in his words were long gone. There was only a deep sense of fear. The other party continued, "The god of War Palace will remember this debt. There is still a long way to go, and we will definitely get revenge." After saying that, Cui Lai's figure moved, instantly turning into a ray of light that leaped into the sky, disappearing from everyone's sight. Jun Jiang had no intention of chasing after him. If he wanted to kill Cui Lai would already be a dead man just now. Cui Lai had escaped, but the rest of the people were not mentally prepared at all. A second ago, they were still chasing the demon army in all directions, but now they were all at a loss, not knowing what to do. Everyone could not help but look at Li Yuanliang and the 4 people from Xiaomeng. In this way, the 4 of them had the highest cultivation. The 4 of them frowned, their expressions solemn. Even if the four of them joined forces, they would not be a match for the fox of the Green Hill at all. However, they had already chased to this point, and seeing the duck that was already in their hands fly away, they were really unwilling, but no one spoke. Junjianga was the first to speak. Those who cross this path die. Zing. As his voice fell, Junjianga swung his sword horizontally, and a majestic sword momentum poured out. A sword ray streaked across the sky in front of him. Boom! The peerless sword ray whistled down, slashing down towards the ridge below. The earth quaked, the mountains shook, and the mountains and rivers collapsed. Under everyone's gaze that was filled with endless fear, the ridge below was directly split in half, rocks flew everywhere, and a huge ravine suddenly cut across the east and west, more than 1,000 feet in length. Looking at the fierce sword chi that wantonly pervaded the air, all the thoughts in everyone's mind were immediately extinguished without a trace. Junjianga did not look at the crowd again, and with a swoosh, he left a nimble and elegant fox shadow on the spot and directly swaggered away. Everyone in the room looked at each other in dismay, unwilling to accept this outcome. No one expected that the plan to destroy the demon race would unexpectedly be interrupted by the fox of the Green Hill. What should we do? Hauzi asked anxiously. What else can we do? I'm afraid that a trace of that fox's sword chi is enough to crush us. With just us alone, we can't save Mu Feng at all. Qiao Shaoan said. Han Ichuan also shook his head in silence. Instead of going to their deaths, they could only beg for Mu Feng's good fortune. Chapter 1096. All of you, stay here. Just when they were at a loss of what to do, Chu Hen suddenly said with determination. Are you crazy? Qiao Shaoan hurriedly stopped him. There are so many experts in the monster clan. If you die, we'll all be finished. From the other party's point of view, Chu Hen's actions were too impulsive. Even Cui Lai from the God of War Palace could not take a blow from the Fox of Green Hill. If Chu Hen did not go to his death, what else could it be? I'll be careful, replied Chu Hen. I'll go with you, said Hauzi. No, it's more convenient for me to move alone. After giving the 3 simple instructions, Chu Hen did not delay any further. He immediately turned into a ray of light and shot into the sky ahead. The monster clan's army was vast and mighty. They surged all the way down like a raging torrent. The troops led by the 4 monster venerables had already returned to the escort team. The mission was daunting but not dangerous, and the 4 monster venerables who had escaped from death were relieved. Fortunately, you came in time this time. Red Dragon Monster Venerable looked at the Fox of Green Hill, Junjianga behind him. The corner of the latter's long and narrow eyes twitched as he looked at Mu Feng, who was locked in the cage. The Monster Emperor's skeleton is with this person? Yes. Red Dragon Monster Venerable nodded solemnly. We were careless and let this person enter the divine pool of Emperor blood by mistake. By the time we realized it, it was already too late to stop him. Junjianga was slightly stunned and looked somewhat confused. Red Dragon Monster Venerable continued. Fortunately, Miss Bai reminded us in time and allowed us to enter the tomb of the Monster Emperor in time to check. Otherwise, things would not have gone so smoothly. Wait, where's Miss Bai? Red Dragon Monster Venerable paused as he realized that Bai Qianyu, who was originally with the Vanguard team, had left. Sir Monster Venerable. The wolf-headed monster commander turned around and said, Miss Bai took her leave when you came back. She's already gone? The demon venerables looked at each other and saw the surprise in each other's eyes. However, she soon felt relieved. She had been a man of few words for the past few days. Since she had completed her mission, she felt that there was no need for her to continue staying here. Since she has already left, we'll send someone to thank her after we return to the demon region. The few of them nodded. The most important thing now was to bring back the demon god's skeleton. Someone is chasing us. At this moment, a rat demonic beast with bat wings spoke. Oh! The 9-tailed fox was slightly surprised. How many people? Just one. One? All the demonic beasts were astonished. A cold glint flashed across the bloodshot eyes of the violent, revered demon Lord Yen Luo. What audacity! Wait for me to crush that ignorant thing. He immediately turned around. Interesting. The nine-tailed fox chuckled lightly and said with a cold and arrogant gaze, I'm curious who ignored my warning. You guys go first, I'll be right back, swoosh. With that, Jun Jiang's figure flashed backward like a spirit goose returning to its cage. He left an elegant afterimage in the void, and did not greet revered demon Lord Yen Luo. Revered demon Lord Yen Luo was stunned and cursed unhappily. This fox is really unreasonable. What's so great about being handsome? The other three demon venerables also smiled. The nine-tailed fox had always been like this. It was normal for a naturally cold and aloof race to behave this way. At this moment, Chu Hen was tailing the demon clan troops all the way back. He did not dare to get too close, and at the same time, he did not dare to stay too far away. Although he knew that he had no hope of rescuing Mu Feng by himself, he did not want to leave him behind. Putting aside his years of friendship with Mu Feng was trapped because he wanted to help him find Luo Mengchang. Even if the probability was 1 in a billion, he had to try. Chu Hen's eyes were filled with determination, and he could not help but speed up again. However, at this moment, an extremely dangerous aura suddenly attacked him. Not good. Chu Hen's expression changed. Before he could react, the mountain range in front of him suddenly collapsed like a giant beast rushing through the wilderness. Rumble! The mountain range exploded and the airflow poured in. A sword rainbow with a majestic aura charged straight at him. The sword's momentum was shocking and it shook the heavens. The rolling airflow intertwined. Wherever it went, the mountains and forests were crushed and a huge ravine constantly extended on the ground. In just the blink of an eye, the peerless sword beam had already reached him. There was no way to avoid it. In a hurry, a thick demonic purple light appeared in Chu Hen's eyes and a powerful force that emitted rapid energy fluctuations surged out. Punishment shield, buzz! The airflow between heaven and earth rapidly intertwined and waves of purple light intertwined. In an instant, a solid purple light shield blocked in front of Chu Hen. The incomparably swift and fierce sword pillar solidly collided with the light shield. Chu Hen's heart tightly trembled. Bang! A heaven-shaking muffled sound rang out. A heavy wave of air covered the sky and covered the earth. In the center of the light shield, a huge gap was impressively broken open. Chu Hen was shocked. This was the first time. For the first time, the punishment shield could not even withstand a single blow. The difference in strength was actually so great. The cold offensive went all the way down, like a hot knife through butter. As Chu Hen quickly retreated, he stretched out his left hand and connected the 7 stars in his palm. The bright stars burst out with a dazzling divine light. The endless power of the stars surged rapidly and violent power erupted like a volcano. Boom! The two incomparably violent forces once again collided, and the dazzling light swept the world. Mountain torrents collided and meteorites collided. The shocking power surged and erupted in the void. The sky lost its color and the mountains and rivers were about to split. An earth-shattering violent shock wave swept across the lofty mountains and precipitous ridges below, causing numerous mountain peaks and precipitous ridges to collapse with a loud bang. Thunderclaps and storms surged like billowing waves. Whoosh! The crisp sword momentum made a soft sound. Jun Jiang stood calmly at the top of the mountain, looking at the chaotic power storm in front of him with an indifferent expression. His black hair danced in the wind, and his eyes were as cold as frost. He turned around indifferently and was ready to leave. However, just as he was about to turn around, he suddenly stopped in his tracks. He looked back sideways and saw a young figure with a slightly disheveled figure but extraordinary temperament. He flew over and steadily landed on the opposite peak. There were many small wounds on Chu Hen's face, and the purple light on his body was flowing, looking evil. There was also a faint layer of black light floating behind him. The black light was attached to his back and shoulders, like a layer of shadow covering his back, revealing a mysterious aura. The two looked at each other from afar. The airflow in the air was undulating and constantly accelerating. Not dead, Junjiang raised his gaze slightly, looking at Chu Hen's handsome face with a sliver of curiosity. When he saw the pair of purple eyes on his opponent's face, the nine-tailed fox's face, which had been cold and aloof for 1,000 years, showed some astonishment. Chapter 1097. The Demon Eye Clan. The moment their gazes met, the airflow in the air seemed to tremble a little. When Junjiang saw Chu Hen's pupils, which were emitting a demonic purple light, a little astonishment quietly surfaced on his cold and aloof face. Chu Hen's eyes were as cold as frost. The power in his body was constantly circulating, and his vigorous aura was like underground magma that was brewing. The cultivation of the person in front of him was strong and unfathomable. He did not dare to be careless even for a little bit. However, something unexpected happened to Chu Hen. He saw that the demonic power released by the other party was slowly converging. At the same time, the long sword in his hand condensed into a wisp of fluorescent light and disappeared in his palm. You? Chu Hen was stunned and looked at Junjiang in confusion. What was the other party doing? Junjiang raised his eyes slightly, and his tone of voice was surprisingly gentle. He asked, "Why did you chase me?" The corners of Chu Hen's eyes narrowed slightly, but he remained vigilant. "You captured my friend, oh?" Junjiang was slightly surprised. "The person in the cage?" "That's right. What do you want to do with him?" "Bring him back to the demon region." Chu Hen was shocked, and a solemn look appeared on his face. If Mu Feng was brought back to the demon region, there would be no turning back. Chu Hen stared coldly at the other party's bewitching face, and the 5 black dots in the depths of his pupils emitted an obscure power fluctuation. "You can't beat me," Junjiang said calmly. "Even if you have one of the 10 strongest bloodlines, the demon eye holy body." The indifferent words were like needles that pierced straight into his heart. Chu Hen's mind suddenly trembled, as if a secret that he had hidden for many years had suddenly been seen through, and he was inexplicably caught off guard. "I know." Chu Hen's answer was exceptionally straightforward. "If that's the case, why did you chase me?" Chu Hen didn't answer the nine-tailed fox's question. "You're thinking that while we're retreating, there might be human powerhouses coming to intercept us. By then, you can take advantage of the chaos to save your friends." Blood on the first prick. His words hit the mark. The other party had clearly seen through Chu Hen's thoughts. At the same time, Chu Hen was shocked in his heart. Not only does this nine-tailed fox possess unfathomable strength, even its thoughts are extraordinarily meticulous. In front of him, she was still too inexperienced. "Why did you retract your sword?" Chu Hen asked in a deep voice. Since the other party had already seen through his thoughts, he could very well kill him with a single sword strike. There was no need for him to continue speaking nonsense here. "It's very simple. I've already struck once," Junjiang answered. He had already unleashed a sword? Chu Hen was stunned, and he couldn't help but feel that it was strange. At the same time, he exuded an innate arrogance and aloofness. After a brief moment of shock, Chu Hen came to a realization. The other party had no intention of unleashing a second sword strike, because there was too much of a difference in their realms. In Junjiang's eyes, one sword strike was enough. If it were an opponent of the same level, Junjiang would naturally unleash a second strike without hesitation. But for Chu Hen, who was only in the 9th level of the Heaven Profound realm, even if the other party was not dead, he would not unleash a second strike. This was the arrogance and demeanor of the nine-tailed spirit. Although he knew that Junjiang wouldn't kill him, Chu Hen was still quite displeased. It was not that the other party couldn't kill him, but that he was too lazy to do so. "There's another reason." Junjiang's eyes flickered with a hint of malevolence. "Our fates are somewhat similar, us?" "Fate? Similar? When those words came out of Jun Jiang's mouth, Chu Hen was stunned. With a move of his body, he instantly flashed to the peak where Jun Jiang was. The two of them stood facing each other, and subconsciously pointed at each other and himself. Puzzled, he asked, "What did you just say? Me, us? What fate?" Looking at Chu Hen's bewildered expression, Jun Jiang could not help but understand. "I see, what do you mean, I see? Tell me clearly, do you know me? Or?" Chu Hen raised his hand to point at his own face, his voice inexplicably trembling. "Or do you know this pair of eyes?" Wow! At this moment, Chu Hen's heart was in an uproar. It was as if a bright and beautiful shooting star had suddenly streaked across the silent night sky. He was eager to know where the meteor came from and where it was headed. However, Jun Jiang's answer did not bring any excitement to Chu Hen. He said, "I don't know you, I've never come into contact with anyone around you. Then did you just say that our fates are similar?" "About this, you need to find the answer yourself," Jun Jiang said faintly. The meteor that streaked across the night sky hurriedly disappeared into the boundless darkness. However, Chu Hen's heart could not calm down no matter how hard he tried. He looked at Jun Jiang's cold and arrogant face and was sure that it was indeed the first time he met him. Moreover, the other party did not have any intention of showing mercy with that sword just now. Swoosh, swoosh. At this moment, a few hurried sounds of wind breaking were hurriedly chasing in this direction. "There he is! I see Chu Hen." The familiar voices came from Haozi and Han Ichuan. Because they were too worried, the three of them finally chased after him all the way. However, before the three of them could finish their joy, their faces suddenly turned pale again. They saw a slender and evil figure standing in front of Chu Hen. "It's that fox! What we were afraid of really happened." The few of them clearly remembered how terrifying that fox was just a moment ago. Even so, the three of them still bit the bullet and flew to Chu Hen's side. At the same time, they stared at Jun Jiang as if they were facing a formidable enemy. "Chu Hen, are you okay?" At this moment, the energy wave released from Chu Hen's body had long been restrained. He forcibly suppressed his chaotic mind and shook his head to the three people behind him, indicating that he was fine. They were slightly relieved, but they were also surprised. How could the two people in front of them stand so harmoniously here? Did they know each other? Han Ichuan and Haozi looked at each other and saw the doubt in each other's eyes. Meanwhile, Xiao Shaowan stared at Jun Jiang's face and could not help but be a little distracted. Next to her, Han Ichuan nudged her with his elbow and whispered, "You're almost drooling. Don't be so embarrassing." Xiao Shaowan quickly retracted her gaze and then glared at Han Ichuan. "Humph, you're the one who's embarrassing." Then, she muttered in a low voice, "You men are allowed to look at beauties, but we women are not allowed to look at handsome men?" Next to them, Han Ichuan and Haozi shook their heads secretly. She was still thinking about such things at a time like this. This girl's heart was too big. Chapter 1098. It's actually an ancestral butterfly? Jun Jiang, the fox of the Green Mountains, uttered a voice with a hint of surprise. Chu Hen and Han Ichuan were both stunned, their faces filled with astonishment. Haozi, on the other hand, looked confused. Ancestral butterfly? What ancestral butterfly? Xiao Xiaowan's eyes lit up. She took a step forward and looked at him excitedly. "Are you talking about me? Do you know who I am?" Jun Jiang couldn't help but be a little stunned. A demon eye and an ancestral butterfly didn't know his secret? "Don't you know that you're a demon?" "What? Demon?" Haozi shouted again, full of shock. He looked at the calm Chu Hen and Han Ichuan again, and his heart was suddenly in turmoil. "Don't tell me the two of you already knew? Can you stop messing around?" Xiao Shaowan pushed Haozi away and continued to ask Jun Jiang, "What kind of demon beast is the ancestral butterfly you mentioned just now?" After all, the main purpose of Xiao Shaowan leaving the victorious East State was to unravel the mystery of her birth. Ever since she was young, she knew that she was different from others. Junjianga nodded slightly. The ancestral butterfly is an insect ant when it's young, and a butterfly when it's mature. Insect ant? Chu Hen and Han Ichuan looked at each other. After hearing what Junjianga said, now that they thought about it, Qiao Xiaowan's original form at that time was indeed a bit like a giant ant beast. In that case, Qiao Xiaowan was very likely to be the ancestral butterfly that Junjianga mentioned. If it's really an ancestral butterfly, then it's amazing. Han Ichuan shook his head and said in a low voice, "That's a very powerful demon beast race." As someone from the Nine Heaven Pavilion, it was only natural that Han Ichuan had heard of the ancestral butterfly. The ancestral butterfly race had an extremely noble bloodline. He was born to be one of the best among the demons. Junjianga did not deny what Han Ichuan had said, nor did he say anything more. Qiao Xiaowan quickly asked, "Can you tell me where they are?" Everyone's eyes were focused on Junjianga. Since the other party was able to see through Qiao Xiaowan's identity with a single glance, then he must have had some contact with the ancestral butterfly clan, so he should have some clues about this. Just a moment ago, the atmosphere on both sides was extremely tense. The few of them looked at Junjianga as if he was facing a formidable enemy. In the blink of an eye, he had already regarded the other party as a pathfinder. This change was a little too fast. Junjianga pondered for a moment before saying, "I don't know where the ancestral butterfly's demon nest is." "You don't know?" His heart immediately sank. "But," Junjianga continued, everyone's heartstrings tightened again. "I once saw an ancestor butterfly in the Kunchi mountain area of the Midland." The extinguished hope was rekindled, and Qiao Xiaowan's eyes shone with excitement. "Kunchi mountain. That's great, thank you so much." She happily hugged Chu Hen's arm next to her, and then patted Han Ichuan's arm. She was innocent and exceptionally cute. However, this happy event did not improve the mood of the few of them. Chu Hen smiled slightly, and melancholy once again shrouded his eyebrows. Especially Hauzi, who had not smiled from beginning to end. The reason was very simple: Mu Feng was still in their hands. Soon, Qiao Xiaowan also realized this. She subconsciously took 2 steps back, keeping a certain distance from Junjianga. The atmosphere became tense again. There was an inexplicable anxiety. "Senior, thank you for telling us this, but I still don't want to give up my friend like this," Chu Hen said in a low voice. "The outcome has been decided, and you can't change it." Junjianga's eyes were calm, and he had no intention of drawing his sword again. He said to Chu Hen, "The Monster Clan's army has already passed Heaven Ravine Peak. Even if the human experts come to stop them, they can't change the situation." Chu Hen's eyes turned cold, and he could not help but clench his fists. At this moment, Junjianga continued, "I will protect him from death." "Protect him from death?" The few of them's eyes lit up. "Is it the Demon Emperor's skeleton?" Chu Hen asked. "This is also surprising to me." Junjianga's eyebrows flashed with doubt. Logically, ordinary people can't withstand the powerful demon power in the Demon Emperor's skeleton, but he is still alive. After we take the Demon Emperor's skeleton, I will send him out of the Monster Clan. Chu Hen was secretly shocked. It seemed that things had not reached the point of no return. Was it because of Mu Feng's sword demon bloodline boundary? How long will it take to take the Demon Emperor's skeleton? I'm not sure. Maybe a few months, maybe a few years. Of course, if we kill him directly, it will be very fast. Junjianga's words shocked the 4 of them. You can rest assured. Since I promised you to protect him from death, I won't use the last method. However, if he can't withstand the impact of the Demon Emperor's skeleton's power and explode, I won't take any responsibility. Junjianga had already put it this way. If Chu Hen still did not accept it, he would be too insensible. With just the 4 of them, they might not be able to reach the Monster Clan. Not to mention that Chu Hen still had other things to do, so he could not delay this matter any longer. After a long period of hesitation, Chu Hen finally chose to believe the other party. After all, with the Fox of Green Hill's cold and aloof character, there was no need for him to talk nonsense with them here. "I'll leave this matter to you, Senior. The spirit of Green Hill always keeps his word." Jun Jianga replied indifferently, "I've delayed this world for too long. It's time for me to leave." "Wait." Suddenly, Hauzi called out to him. Everyone was puzzled. Hauzi said very solemnly, "I want to go to the monster clan with you." "What?" Everyone was startled. Hauzi turned to look at Chu Hen. "If I had clenched my teeth and persevered a little more, I might have been able to pull Mu Feng out of the blood pool, and there wouldn't have been so many things later. This time, I'll go to the monster clan to watch over him. If he survives, we'll both come back together. If he unfortunately dies, I'll collect his corpse. I'll collect his corpse." Hearing the last sentence, the hearts of Chu Hen and the others were all touched. After saying that, Hauzi begged Jun Jianga again, "Senior, please take me to the monster clan. I'll behave myself and never cause trouble." However, Jun Jianga did not answer and turned to leave. He had only taken 2 steps, but in the next second, he had flashed several miles away. Seeing this, Hauzi immediately said to Chu Hen, "You must find Miss Mengchang. Her matter can't be delayed. Don't worry, leave Mu Feng to me." Chu Hen nodded solemnly. "You must come back safe and sound." "Of course." Hauzi raised his fist and knocked on his chest, then nodded at the 3 of them. He immediately moved and chased after Jun Jianga as fast as he could. Looking at the backs of the 2 gradually disappearing into the sky, the 3 of them were silent for a long time. Mu Feng and Hauzi were good friends that Chu Hen had known since they were in Tensei Prefecture of the Sacred Star Dynasty. Along the way, they had been through thick and thin together. Hopefully, they could return safely. "Don't worry. I believe that Mu Feng won't be so short-lived. A scourge lives for 1,000 years. Qiao Shaowan comforted Chu Hen. Chu Hen could not help but laugh, and the gloominess in his eyes dissipated. Looking back, the huge tomb of immortals and demons seemed to have returned to its previous tranquility overnight. The change of Yama King's tomb, the opening of the Demon Emperor's tomb, the fierce battle between the major forces and the Demon Clan had quietly come to an end. "I wonder where Old Man West Wind, Sister Xuanxuang, and Little Yao are," Qiao Shaowan said casually. Han Ichuan looked up and said, "According to the previous agreement, if they are not in the tomb of immortals and demons, they should have gone directly to the Deep Star Prefecture." Deep Star Prefecture, the 3rd and final place where he could appear. There was also the Wild Sword Ancient Land. "I wonder if Guyu has any gains?" Everything seemed to fill Chu Hen's mind with question marks. "Let's stay for one more day. After confirming that they are not there, we will go to the Deep Star Prefecture," Chu Hen said. The 2 nodded in agreement. The Demon Clan army left, and the human experts of the various forces also withdrew. On a secluded peak, a beautiful figure with an otherworldly temperament quietly watched the departure of the Fox of Green Hill, Jun Jianga. Finally, her eyes turned to one of the 3 figures in the rear area. Behind the mask, her clear eyes were like water, rippling with shallow and complicated emotions. Then, a strange distortion appeared in the space, and a wisp of golden air vortex spun rapidly around her. She immediately disappeared on the spot, hiding between heaven and earth. Clouds and mist lingered, and the forest was deep and dangerous. Towering peaks towered into the clouds like pillars that supported the heavens. Broken cliffs could be seen everywhere. Dragon pythons were entrenched, giant beasts were crawling, and white bones were everywhere, forming a path of bones. This was an extremely desolate place, and at the same time, it was an extremely ancient ruin. Ferocious creatures lurking in the shadows exuded a strong aura of danger. At this moment, a figure wrapped in a loose black robe stepped into this savage land. Under the cover of the black robe, it was impossible to see the figure's height, but from the few strands of long hair hanging down her neck and the fair skin on her cheeks, it could be determined that this was a woman. she walked out of the thick fog, walking alone in this ancient wasteland. The dry bones under her feet gave off a crisp sound of cracking. From time to time, a few strange howls sounded from the depths of the forest. Even during the day, this place was still frightening. She quietly walked forward, stepping over one treacherous land after another. She walked past the forest, the poisonous swamp, the cliff. She was unhurried and unhurried. After an unknown period of time, an ancient ruin that had long been eroded by wind and rain appeared in front of her. It was a desolate 1,000-year-old ruin, with huge collapsed stone pillars, dilapidated fortresses. Corpses and broken weapons could be seen everywhere. She quietly walked to the ancient plaza in front of the ruin. She walked all the way up the stairs. The surroundings were silent. The cold wind blew through the eaves and windows, making the sound of the wailing of the dead. "It should be here," the woman murmured softly. Then, she put her palms together and intersected her fingers to form a seal. A vast and surging aura spread out like a tidal wave. The sky changed color and dark clouds covered the sky. Accompanied by the rapid airflow, countless beautiful lines suddenly flashed on this ancient wasteland. Streaks of intertwining light patterns shot out like lightning. The ancient and mysterious talisman array was quietly activated after 1,000 years. Thunder roared, storms raged, and fierce winds howled. In an instant, the world spun, and an incomparably huge talisman array shockingly appeared in the sky above this ruin. Rumble, the mountains collapsed, the earth cracked, and the buildings collapsed. Sharp cracks rapidly spread from the ground. The ground cracked, and waves of air filled the sky. Rocks of all sizes fell, the earth rapidly expanded, and a huge crack that spanned hundreds of feet appeared on the plaza. The woman's figure moved, and she directly plunged into the abyss. The bottomless abyss was like a boundless netherworld. Many complex and mysterious talismans constantly swayed in the air. Hua! Suddenly, an incomparably dazzling white light rushed toward her like a torrent, instantly submerging the woman in black. Then, the woman seemed to have fallen into a chaotic world where heaven and earth were not divided. Heaven and earth were connected, and thousands of stars seemed to be within reach. The woman flew toward the deepest part of this chaotic area, like a shooting star shuttling through the universe. Rumble, immediately after, a chaotic storm of turbulence swept over, wreaking havoc in all directions. The black-clothed woman composed herself and looked up, only to see a majestic nebula vortex slowly stirring above the vast sky. The power around the vortex was extremely violent and chaotic. The space inside was distorted, and pitch-black spatial cracks constantly flickered. And below the spatial vortex floated an ancient stone platform. Around the stone platform, a torrent-like cyclone storm gathered. The woman in black's gaze penetrated the cyclone storm, and directly reached the heart of the stone platform where a quiet and elegant figure with a delicate aura, quiet as if in a dream, beautiful and moving. Chapter 1099. Midland, Chunxing Province. After more than 10 days of trekking over mountains and rivers, traversing over mountains and ridges, and passing through several cities on the way, Chuhen, Hanichuan, and Xiao Shaowan finally arrived at their final destination, the Hidden Sky City. Outside the majestic city gate, Chuhen held a map in his hand. On the map, the location of the city was clearly marked. "It should be here." Chuhen's voice was slightly gloomy as he spoke. His words revealed a trace of hope and expectation. "I wonder if Yi Yao and the others are here yet?" Xiao Shaowan asked casually. "Let's go in first." With a bit of expectation, the three of them walked into the city. In the Midland there were many provinces, tens of thousands of clans, and tens of thousands of sections. The distribution of clans and sects was the most complicated. The land was vast, and the resources were innumerable. The top geniuses in this city were like thousands of stars in the sky. The Hidden Sky City, as one of the main cities of the Chunxing province, had a very exotic culture. The buildings standing on both sides of the street all had their own unique styles. It was prosperous and bustling with people and carriages. Stalls for trading could be seen everywhere on the street. However, at first glance, most of the people who set up these stalls were not ordinary peddlers. Judging from their clothes, they seemed to be disciples of powerful clans. The items placed in front of them were all spirit pills, rare ores, and other valuable treasures. This street is a bit different from the one in the victorious East Province. Qiao Shaowan curiously observed the surroundings. Han Yichuan nodded and said, "That's true. Because of the fierce competition between all the powerful sects in the Midland, with a slight carelessness, one could easily fall behind the others. Even some talented martial geniuses couldn't avoid the fate of a flash in the pan. Therefore, most of the people who grew up in the Midland would try their best to improve their cultivation. This is too hard. The path of cultivation has never been easy. My Shifu also said that the Midland can be counted as the true place of cultivation. In the truest sense, it was a place of cultivation." Hearing this, Chu Hen also nodded his head in agreement. In comparison, the young generation in the Midland was indeed better. For example, Li Yuanliang, Lu Weiyue, Xiao Meng, Li Yanqing, and the others in the Immortal and Devil Tomb. All of them were talented geniuses. Where are they? Qiao Shaowan said, a bit bored. Just at this time, Chu Hen's figure suddenly stopped. His footsteps stopped in front of a restaurant with classical decorations. "They are here." "Oh!" Han Yichuan and Qiao Shaowan's eyes lit up. They looked at each other, and the former asked, "How did you know?" Chu Hen pointed at a string of patterns on the wall outside of the restaurant. The two of them focused and looked at it. It was not an ordinary pattern, but a rune that was combined together. When I was at Mount Kunliu, Senior West Wind had taught me these runes. "Are you serious? There are so many cultivators here. What if they were carved by someone else?" Qiao Shaowan expressed her doubts. "Try it and you will know." Chu Hen's gaze slightly twitched as he took a step forward. Then, he slowly extended his palm and a strand of beautiful soft light was released from his palm. Buzz, wisps of Reiki energy flowed out and coiled around the patterns on the wall. Along with the slight trembling of the airwaves, the patterns on the wall were instantly lit up and emitted a beautiful light. Swoosh! In the next moment, a few hurried sounds of wind breaking could be heard. Then, a sweet voice filled with surprise came into the ears of the three. "Big Brother Chu Hen, wow!" The familiar voice made Chu Hen, Han Yichuan, and Qiao Shaowan's hearts light up. Xiao Yao. As soon as Chu Hen turned around, a nimble and delicate figure directly pounced on him. "Big Brother Chu Hen, you are finally here. We have been waiting for more than half a month." Chu Hen smiled a little speechlessly. At the same time, he looked to the front and saw Shifeng Zi and Long Xuanshuang had also arrived. Shifeng Zi smiled and nodded. Long Xuanshuang's beautiful eyes were filled with faint wrinkles, and the worry that had yet to completely fade could be seen between her brows. It was obvious that during this period of time, she had been worried about Chu Hen a lot. Cough, cough. Qiao Shaowan pretended to cough twice. "I say, Xiao Yao, you only have your big brother Chu Hen in your eyes. Don't you see us?" "Of course I see you guys." Yi Yao smiled a little embarrassedly and then stretched out her little hand. "Welcome back. TSK, no sincerity at all. You two are hugging and hugging on the street. So shameless. Haha, wait for me. I'm coming to hug you now." After saying that, Yi Yao pounced on Qiao Shaowan. The latter did not dodge. At the same time, she giggled and pouted. Hey, go away, little vixen." The two's funny behavior made the others chuckle. "Oh yeah, why are there only 3 of you? Where are the little bastard and the little mouse?" Shifeng Zi asked. The little bastard and little mouse he mentioned were naturally Mu Feng and Haozi. Chu Hen and Han Yichuan looked at each other. The former nodded slightly with a serious expression. Seeing Chu Hen's expression, Yi Yao stopped fooling around. "What's wrong, Big Brother Chu Hen? Did something happen to Big Brother Mu Feng and Haozi?" Chu Hen shook his head and said, "This is not the place to talk." Everyone nodded. Shi Fengzi said, "Let's go to the place to stay." Not long after, they arrived at a luxurious and imposing mansion. There was a courtyard in front and a pavilion at the back. In the courtyard, there were exotic flowers and plants competing with each other, and their fragrance was enchanting. Meow. As soon as they stepped into the courtyard, they heard a soft meow of a cat. Then, an agile cat with a black and white pattern on its head and a Tai Chi pattern on its face walked out while wagging its tail. "Noni! Look, Big Brother Chu Hen is back," Yi Yao said as she stretched out her hands. Meow. The black and white cat obediently jumped into Yi Yao's arms and meowed at Chu Hen. "Noni, long time no see." Chu Hen smiled and rubbed the cat's head. The black and white cat was also a yin-yang beast. This beast was owned by the young city lord Qi Juexin when he passed by Whale Island City. After a series of changes, the yin-yang beast also recognized Yi Yao as its new owner. "Wait, such a big place. Are only the three of you living here?" Han Ichuan's attention was still on the luxurious environment of the mansion. "Yes." Long Xuanxuang nodded. "No way. Aren't you living too well? I thought you were living in a restaurant. I didn't expect it to be so luxurious." That's right, that's right." Xiao Shaowan was also surprised. Even Chu Hen revealed a look of astonishment. "What? This is a gift from Hidden Sky City's City Lord to Senior West Wind. We are just basking in his glory," Yi Yao hurriedly explained. "A gift for Shi Fengzi?" The three of them were even more startled. "Why?" Han Ichuan asked. "Senior West Wind helped them repair a divine artifact half a month ago. Shi Fengzi, Long Xuanxuang, and Yi Yao came to Hidden Sky City. There were many cultivators in the city, and there were many requirements for elixirs, weapons, talisman arrays, and so on. However, these were Shi Fengzi's strong points. At that time, he happened to hear the city lord's mansion send out a notice, seeking pattern artists to repair weapons. On a whim, Shi Fengzi went to take the test. Who would have thought that when all the other spell engravers failed, only Shi Fengzi would show his talent and complete the mission given by the city lord's mansion. The city lord was overjoyed and rewarded him with many rewards. This mansion was one of them. "I see." Everyone was enlightened, and at the same time, they looked at Shi Fengzi with admiration. Shi Fengzi was a little proud, but he also sighed with a little disappointment. It's a pity that Mu Feng and Haozi didn't come. Although Shi Fengzi kept calling them little bastards, he was actually quite fond of the two youngsters who were like clowns. It was only the absence of the two of them that made him feel a little disappointed. The three of them looked at Chu Hen with questioning eyes again. Chu Hen also let out a long sigh of relief and nodded. "We encountered some trouble at the Immortal and Devil Tomb." Immediately, Chu Hen told them everything that happened from Mu Feng and Haozi accidentally entering the Demon Emperor's tomb. The former fell into the blood pool and was forcibly possessed by the Demon Emperor's skeleton. Then, the battle between humans and demonic beasts, and finally meeting the Green Hill Fox, Jun Jianga. After listening to him, the few of them were extremely shocked. Their expressions became more and more solemn. They never expected that Mu Feng would be involved in that storm during the trip to the Immortal and Devil Tomb. Sigh. Shi Fengzi shook his head and sighed. "If I knew the situation would be so complicated, I wouldn't have let them act alone." The others sighed softly. "Is that Green Hill Fox reliable?" Yi Yao asked. Chu Hen shook his head uncertainly. "I don't know, but we have no choice but to trust him. He should be trustworthy. The Green Hill Fox clan has been famous for being cold and aloof since ancient times. Since he personally promised, he will most likely keep his word." After all, Shi Fengzi had lived for so long that he had heard of the name of the Green Hill Fox. The only thing that made him suspicious was why such a prideful race would make a promise to a nobody like Chu Hen. However, Chu Hen had more than one or two secret. It was precisely because the other party was Chu Hen that Shi Fengzi had no need to ask further. Don't worry. The two of them will be fine. Long Xuanxuang comforted Chu Hen softly. Chu Hen smiled faintly. Then, a deep light flashed in his eyes. Chapter 1100. You've been here for so long. Have you found any clues about Meng Chong? After informing Mu Feng and Haozi of what had happened in the Immortal and Devil Tomb, Chu Hen looked at Shifeng Zi and the other two with a deep gaze. Long Xuanxuang and Yi Yao frowned slightly as they looked at Shifeng Zi solemnly. The latter looked up slightly and nodded. I've asked the city governor's estate to help me find the places where your little girlfriend might appear. After a series of investigations, we've locked onto a place where? Chu Hen's eyes lit up. Shifeng Zi turned to face the southwest. There's a Qilin cave 1,500 kilometers away from Hidden Sky City. It's a place with the most chaotic energy, and it's extremely easy for it to distort space and form cracks. Qilin Cave? Chu Hen clenched his fists slightly as his eyes lit up. Tell me the details. According to the city governor's estate, and we've asked many nearby residents, we found out that the Qilin Cave is a dangerous place that has existed for tens of thousands of years. It's said that a black Qilin had fallen in the Qilin Cave a long time ago. Black Qilin? The expressions of Chu Hen and the others changed slightly. That was an ancient and ferocious divine beast. It sounded a little frightening. Rumor has it that after the black Qilin died, its remaining soul and beast blood were attached to the magma in the cave. After countless years of absorbing the mystical flame's energy in the magma, it finally transformed into a powerful demon soul. Long Xuanxuang said. These rumors are all information that little Yao and I obtained from searching everywhere. However, after we personally went to investigate, we didn't see the so-called Black Qilin. You've already been there? Chu Hen frowned slightly. The three of them nodded. But Long Xuanxuang continued, because the temperature in the Qilin cave is very high, little Yao and I did not go too deep. Senior West Wind explored it alone. I didn't reach the innermost part either. Shifeng Zi answered honestly. The temperature of the flames inside was too fierce, and even my runic shield couldn't withstand it. I had no choice but to retreat halfway. Upon hearing this, Chu Hen's frown deepened. He was not disappointed that the few of them returned without any success, but he was worried that if Luo Mengchang was really in that place, it would not bode well for them. At the thought of this, Chu Hen couldn't sit still anymore. He immediately asked, "Where is the specific location of that place?" No one was surprised by Chu Hen's anxiety. After all, to him, every minute and every second was probably torture. "Let's go together," Long Xuanxuang said softly. About half an hour later, 6 beams of light streaked across the sky like shooting arrows, then steadily landed on the peak of a mountain. What appeared in front of them was a vast mountain range. As far as the eye could see, most of the mountain ranges had white peaks, and a few of them were still spewing out thick smoke. This was an active volcanic zone, and the area within a radius of nearly 10,000 kilometers was being roasted by the high temperature. The scorching hot air hit them in the face, and the earth stone mine showed a deep red color. One could imagine how shocking the temperature of the surface was. Looking at the mountain range that looked like a dragon crawling on the ground, Han Ichuan's expression changed slightly, and he said in a deep voice, "There's not a single plant, it's a bit scary." Chu Hen did not care about this at all, and asked, "Where is the entrance to the Qilin cave?" "Over there." Yi Yao raised her finger and pointed. It was where 2 cliffs faced each other, and in the middle was a huge abyss, from which flames were spewing from time to time. "It's said that there are other entrances, let's look for them," Long Xuanxuang said softly. "No need, I'll go in from there." "I'll go with you," Shifeng Zi said. "We can work together to set up a more powerful defensive runic shield." Chu Hen still shook his head. "I appreciate Senior's good intentions, but we have not figured out the situation inside, so I'll go in alone first." "That's fine too," Shifeng Zi replied. The others did not say anything else. After all, everyone knew the difference in strength between them and Chu Hen. Under such circumstances, it was more convenient for him to move alone. "Big brother Chu Hen, be careful," Yi Yao said. "Okay." Chu Hen agreed and nodded towards everyone. Soon after, his figure moved, leaving behind an afterimage in the air as he flew towards the crack of the deep abyss in front of him. As soon as he got close to the entrance, a scalding hot wind directly attacked him. Chu Hen's eyes turned cold, and the true yuan in his body immediately formed a protective layer outside his body. Whoosh! With a flash of light, Chu Hen directly dove into the abyss. Below the cliff, there was a sea of flames. Under the raging flames, the molten lava was like a fire dragon hiding underground, causing people to avoid it. After a few hundred meters, a dark cave entrance appeared in front of him. The deep entrance was like a door to another world. Chu Hen dove in without hesitation. After continuously moving forward and sinking, in an instant, a deep red underground lava world appeared in front of Chu Hen's eyes. It was a huge karst cave. It could be said to be unusually vast and spectacular, and the space inside was much wider than he had imagined. It was like a natural cave, or an underground ancient ruin. Lava flowed below, and scorching hot bubbles rose from it. Even the space was warped by the heat. What a terrifying temperature! Chu Hen was secretly shocked. Even with the protection of true yuan, the scalding heat still seeped deep into his skin, as if all the water in his body was about to evaporate. Would Meng Shang be in a place like this? He did not dare to imagine. With a lot of uneasiness and some expectations, Chu Hen stepped on the air and directly flew toward the deepest part of the cave. The deeper he went, the wider the world inside the cave became. Huge stone pillars supported this vast underground world. Strange rocks were rugged, and the cave was like a mansion. From time to time, scattered rocks would fall into the lava below, and instantly melt into a ball of liquid. The increasingly fierce temperature continuously attacked the true yuan on the surface of Chu Hen's body. "Punishment armor!" Chu Hen secretly shouted. Buzz, one after another, gorgeous purple light beams blossomed from Chu Hen's body like flying tassels. Light and shadow interweaved and revolved around, covering Chu Hen's body. Then, it quickly solidified, transforming into a purple battle armor overflowing with light and color. It was a battle armor forged with the power of a 5-star demon eye. In an instant, all the impact of the high temperature was blocked outside. A cold light flashed in Chu Hen's eyes, and he once again rushed deeper into the cave. He searched along the way, but did not find anything. Suddenly, the low roar of a ferocious beast could be vaguely heard. Chu Hen was slightly shocked. What was that just now? Slightly tilting his body to the left, Chu Hen hesitated for a moment, then searched in the direction of the roar. After a while, Chu Hen arrived at an even more vast cave. Huge stone pillars stood erect from the bottom of the magma, like a stone forest. There were wide entrances to the front, back, left, and right of the cave. Then, Chu Hen's eyes fell on a wall inside the cave. The walls were engraved with strange, beastly patterns. The beast patterns looked ferocious, with sharp fangs and claws, extremely powerful. Roar! At this moment, another roar came. This time, Chu Hen heard it clearly. The sound was similar to the roar of a lion, but more majestic and domineering than a male lion. It had a kind of intimidating power that could directly shock one's mind. Rumble! Just as Chu Hen's heart was perplexed, suddenly, the earth trembled. The magma at the core of the earth below surged like a tide. Rumble! A wave of vast and vigorous flame aura suddenly surged out from the depths of the inner cavern. Accompanying it was an incomparably ferocious and majestic aura. Chu Hen was shocked. Before he could react, a ferocious beast wrapped in raging flames rushed out of a cave on the side of the cave. Chapter 1101. Roar! Surging flames directly gushed out from one of the caves on the side of the cave, accompanied by an extremely deafening roar. A terrifying ferocious creature wrapped in raging flames directly charged out of the cave. In an instant, magma splashed wantonly in the cave, and the tide of fire below was like a raging dragon, splashing up into the sky. Chu Hen was alarmed. His figure immediately moved, flashing to the stone pillar forest in front of him at his fastest speed. He restrained all of his aura and hid behind a stone pillar. The sudden appearance of such a ferocious creature with such a terrifying aura in the vast underground lava world truly shocked Chu Hen. However, before Chu Hen could compose himself, another 3 bitingly cold and powerful auras flew out from the other caves on the rock walls. The 3 auras charged towards the ferocious creature from 3 sides. "Heh, evil creature, I want to see where you'll run to this time." A cold laughter filled with ridicule sounded out. The corners of Chu Hen's eyes narrowed slightly. He slightly extended his gaze and saw 3 extravagantly dressed young men with extraordinary temperaments blocking a ferocious beast in a triangular formation. The ferocious creature's entire body was wrapped in scarlet-red flames, and within the red flames, there was a layer of dark black flames, surrounded by the black flames. It was a ferocious creature that was 20 to 30 meters in size. Its body was like an elk, and its huge head was like a lion's with antlers. Its eyes were fierce like a tiger's, and its entire body was covered in dense black scales that emitted a cold luster like armor. Black Qilin? Chu Hen's pupils shrank slightly. There was indeed a black Qilin hidden in the Qilin cave. Although the size of the black Qilin was not outstanding, its body seemed to have the noble aura of a king that only a supreme race possessed. Just this aura alone was enough to make countless demonic beasts in the world submit at its feet. However, what surprised Chu Hen was not the existence of the black Qilin, but the 3 young men who blocked its way. "Evil creature, isn't it better to surrender?" The speaker was a man dressed in luxurious embroidered clothes. His gaze was as sharp as lightning, and his entire body emitted the sharpness of a venomous snake. The other person chuckled lightly. "Yang Ao, this guy has the bloodline of an ancient divine beast. He won't just let us take him down." Although the person who spoke had a gentle expression on his face, the corners of his eyes gleamed brightly, giving off the feeling that he was a smiling tiger. At the same time, the other party's body was emitting extremely strong Reiki energy fluctuations. One could imagine that this person was a powerful pattern artist. The aura emitted by the last person was the thickest, and he directly confronted the black Qilin. His bearing was extraordinary, and his eyes were deep and prideful. He was undoubtedly the strongest amongst the 3. Roar! The black Qilin's eyes were filled with warning and ferocity as it glared at the young man in front of it. The latter crossed his arms in front of him, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. There was a playful look on his face. "Are you going to surrender obediently, or do you want me to do it myself?" Roar! As soon as the words left its mouth, the black Qilin instantly erupted with a monstrous rage. The magma below was like a tsunami that directly soared up and surged toward the black Qilin. The vast and majestic magma converged and formed an extremely dense magma ball in front of the black Qilin. It was not an ordinary mystical flame. The temperature of this magma ball was enough to evaporate any kind of flesh and blood into nothingness in an instant. Not even ashes would be left behind. Subsequently, the black Qilin raised its head and spat out a mouthful of magma. The magma ball in front of it shot out explosively like a terrifying cannonball toward the leading young man. Facing such an extremely destructive attack, the young man had a calm expression on his face. Then, with a swoosh sound, he drifted away. His entire body was surrounded by flowing lights, and he turned into a blade that slashed vertically like a shooting star. Whoosh! The sharp sound caused the space to tremble. The young man actually directly shuttled through the magma ball. At the same time, the extremely dense magma ball was instantly split into 2. It was so direct that there was no sparks or rain of fire. It was very clean. The 2 halves of the magma ball flew out from the left and right respectively. The young man was like a sharp arrow that pierced through the clouds. In an instant, he arrived in front of the black Qilin. The latter raised its sharp claws, and a huge claw tore at the young man. Bang! With a heavy muffled sound, the two collided, bursting out a series of sparks and rain of fire. A powerful wave of air swept out, and the surrounding rock walls instantly cracked. Rocks of all sizes rolled down and fell into the magma, turning into a string of bubbles. Roar! The violent collision caused the black Qilin to retreat more than 10 meters, while the young man was unharmed. As expected of senior brother Pei Yi. The young man named Yang Ao praised. At the same time, Yang Ao put his palms together, and a powerful aura gushed out from his body. 5 light pillars of different colors suddenly appeared in the sky out of nowhere. 5 elements seal. Buzz! The shocking energy waves caused the entire underground world to tremble faintly. The 5 light pillars represented gold, wood, water, fire, and earth, 5 different extraordinary powers. The 5 dazzling light pillars soared into the sky like divine rainbows, like a fence, firmly trapping the black Qilin in the middle. The light pillars intertwined, connecting from head to tail. Trapped within, the black Qilin struggled with all its might. An endless stream of flames burst out from its body, and a deafening roar resounded through the entire underground cave. The violent and ruthless aura formed a violent shock wave that swept out in all directions. The cracked rocks above continued to roll down, and the magma below churned like a tsunami. The rolling heat wave turned the entire cave into an incomparably terrifying place of death. Lu Liao. The young man named Pei Yi shouted in a deep voice. The pattern caster understood tacitly and nodded. Understood, senior brother Pei. After saying that, a vast and majestic Reiki energy was released from his Naiwan palace like a surging torrent. The rich Reiki energy intertwined between his arms, and immediately evolved into a series of gorgeous and complicated runes. The beautiful runes intertwined and lingered, as bright as spirit butterflies and as bright as stars. Whoosh! After a series of rapid whistling sounds, a dazzling light flashed by, and Lu Liao's figure split into 4. The original body and the 3 clones stood at the 4 corners of the black Qilin, like a phantom. It was difficult to distinguish the real from the fake. The 4 Lu Liaos all had their palms facing forward, releasing an extremely powerful Reiki energy. Great Seal Array, Heavenly Water Curtain, whoosh! In an instant, layers of water curtain-like runes spread out from the palms of the 4 Lu Liaos. Like spreading ice crystals, they appeared to be in a vertical 3-dimensional shape. The 4 sides were connected, and the top and bottom were sealed. In the blink of an eye, a huge sealed cube of water curtain trapped the black Qilin in all directions. 5-star seal. Heavenly Water Curtain. Under the suppression of the 2 seals, the aura released by the black Qilin was constantly weakened. The black Qilin was firmly stuck in the middle of the 5 light pillars, letting out all kinds of angry roars, and at this moment, the man called Pei Yi moved, directly passing through one of the water curtains and stepping into the cube of water curtain. Roar! Seeing the human man enter, the black Qilin was extremely furious. The black flames burning all over its body rose wantonly, and the extremely violent power rapidly increased. Crack! The 5 light pillars that trapped it all let out a crisp cracking sound, and dense cracks spread out. This evil creature! Yang Ao frowned, and a cold expression appeared on his face. It's been dead for so long, but it's still so difficult to deal with. The pattern caster Lu Liao faintly smiled. Hee, it's fine. With senior brother Pei Yi here, there's nothing to worry about. As soon as he finished speaking, Pei Yi had already rushed in front of the black Qilin, his deep eyes surging with a frightening cold light. A deathbed struggle. Immediately after, Pei Yi raised a single palm, and along with a vast and majestic aura, the cube of water curtain was immediately filled with a violent force that was like a violent storm. Under the black Qilin's body, a peerless vortex of energy suddenly appeared. Like a prehistoric python opening its bloody mouth, the constantly expanding vortex of energy slowly enveloped the black Qilin's body. It was as if it was about to fall into an endless swamp, and the struggle before disappearing was especially intense. Its 4 hooves kicked wildly, its scales stood on end, and black flames that soared into the sky continuously erupted. The 5 pillars of light surrounding the black Qilin suddenly exploded into thousands of pieces, along with the distorted space, and a few overlapping explosions rang out as the 5 pillars of light surrounding the black Qilin exploded into thousands of pieces. Outside the heavenly water curtain, Yang Ao's and Lu Liao's expressions changed. However, Pei Yi, who was inside the seal talisman formation, had a calm expression. After breaking through the seal of the 5 elements, the black Qilin's aura once again soared. Rolling black flames swept out in all directions, instantly filling more than half of the cube of water curtain. However, just as the black Qilin was about to break free, a pair of giant claws suddenly reached out from the vortex of energy. The sharp claws were like curved hooks, and they were covered with large, tightly packed scales. At a glance, the shape of the pair of giant claws was actually quite similar to the black Qilin's front claws. Without any hesitation, the sharp hooked claws were firmly embedded into the black Qilin's body, and then directly dragged it into the vortex. Roar. The roar sounded a little weak. It was more like a howl of unwillingness. The black Qilin's body rapidly became illusory, and then, as if it had fallen into a swamp, it disappeared into the water curtain along with a string of flames. Seeing this, Lu Liao and Yang Ao looked at each other, their eyes surging with respect. Bang! A powerful aura swept out, and the cube of water curtain instantly exploded in the air. The chaotic and powerful aura caused the entire lava underground to shake violently. Stone walls continuously cracked, and stone pillars collapsed. Congratulations, Senior Brother Pei, for obtaining the Qilin's demonic soul. Yang Ao stepped forward and said, with this black Qilin's demonic soul, Senior Brother's bloodline boundary will definitely rise to another level. You're right. Lu Liao immediately dissolved 3 of his clones, and then said, however, I'm afraid this place is going to collapse, let's leave this place first. And Yang Ao nodded, expressing his agreement. However, Pei Yi did not have any intention of leaving immediately. He calmly turned his body sideways and looked in a certain direction. There were a few stone pillars erected there. Chapter 1102. You've been hiding for so long, do you think I don't know? The man called Pei Yi turned to look at the stone pillars in front of him with a hint of disdain in his indifferent tone. Yang Ao and Lu Liao's eyes turned cold as a biting cold intent surged between their brows. The former shouted, Who is it? Show yourself. Rumble. The violent tremors continued as a steady stream of rocks fell from above and rolled into the magma below. The incomparably high temperature caused the space to distort, and the entire karst cave world was on the verge of collapsing. Chu Hen, who was hiding in the dark, secretly shook his head. After confirming that there was no one around, his figure flashed out from behind the stone pillars. Who are you? Sneaking around. Yang Ao looked coldly at Chu Hen. Chu Hen raised his hands and replied in a gentle tone, Everyone, I didn't mean to pry. I'm here to look for someone. Look for someone? Haha, looking for someone in the Qilin cave, what a good excuse. It's not an excuse, it's the truth. Looking at the increasingly chaotic underground karst cave and the magma splashing, Chu Hen did not plan to stay here any longer. He cupped his fists and said, If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave first. With that, Chu Hen turned to leave. Wait. But in the next second, he was stopped by Pei Ye's indifferent voice. He looked at Chu Hen and said, Did I say you can leave? Chu Hen frowned. Wasn't this person being too suspicious? He didn't even know the 3 of them, so why bother? Is there anything else? Pei Ye's lips curled into a faint sneer. Since you're here, don't leave, what? As soon as he finished speaking, Pei Yi impressively released a powerful energy fluctuation. Then, he clasped his 5 fingers together. Rumble. With a violent vibration, the magma below suddenly exploded. 5 pillars of magma were like rising fire pythons, gathering towards the sky above Chu Hen with the power of circulation. The speed was so fast that Chu Hen was caught unprepared. 5 streams of magma flowed rapidly around Chu Hen like a revolving lantern, while the top of the streams converged and formed an extremely dense fireball in an instant. Before Chu Hen could react, the lava ball above his head smashed down like a meteorite. A huge pressure came crashing down on him. Chu Hen's eyes turned cold, and a violent dark blue electric light interweaved with each other from his body. However, just as Chu Hen was about to condense lightning into a blade, the falling magma fireball suddenly exploded in the air above his head. Bang! Like an exploding sun, a heavy shock wave swept out. It was as if a ferocious beast was roaring in the middle of a blooming flame petal and pouncing over Kirin. Chu Hen's pupils faintly trembled, and the fierce flame Qilin was reflected in his pupils that flickered with lightning. Bang! The menacing flame Qilin directly smashed through the interweaved lightning pillar in front of Chu Hen, and then a heavy and terrifying force crushed down, hitting right in front of Chu Hen. Bang! Thunder and fire mixed, and a rain of sparks flew. The violent force was comparable to the attack of a mountain. Chu Hen's body trembled, and then he was directly hit down, smashing heavily into the magma below. Bang! Waves of fire stacked up and burst out randomly, and Chu Hen was instantly submerged in the rolling hot magma. Behind Pei Yi, Yang Ao and Lu Liao looked at each other and couldn't help but sneer. The former glanced down indifferently, and said calmly without the slightest fluctuation of emotion, "Let's go." Then, the 3 of them dashed toward the entrance of the cave on the side. Rocks of all sizes tumbled down, and the stone pillars supporting the cavern also collapsed and caved in. In the next second after the 3 of them left, bang! A heat wave soared into the sky, and flames danced in the air. A fierce figure wrapped in purple flames instantly flew out of the magma. Chu Hen's figure cut a sorry figure. The punishment armor on his body emitted a flickering light. The battle armor had been melted by the high temperature to the point where it was warped quite a bit. Many of the runes on it were extremely blurry. Looking at the direction where the 3 of them disappeared, Chu Hen's face revealed a trace of coldness. He let out a deep breath, and then turned into a ray of light, flying in the direction where he came from. Rumble! A series of flaming mountains collapsed, and red magma was continuously exposed to the outside world. Long Xuanxuang, Yi Yao, and the others who were waiting anxiously could not stand still, and all of them had nervous expressions on their faces. "I'm so anxious. Why hasn't Big Brother Chu Hen come out yet?" Yi Yao's little face was tense, and she kept pacing back and forth on the spot. The Qilin cave in front of them collapsed one after another, and the center caved in, forming a huge magma pit that was expanding rapidly. The surrounding temperature continued to rise, and thick smoke covered the sky, rising like clouds. "I'll go take a look." Long Xuanxuang's red lips opened slightly, and a trace of determination flashed in her eyes. "No!" Han Ichuen quickly stopped her. "The temperature in the center of the magma is extremely terrifying, and I'm afraid even the sacred armor can't withstand it. I have the ice bloodline limit, and I can withstand it for a while." Long Xuanxuang insisted on going, and ignored Han Ichuan's dissuasion. "Big Sister Xuanxuang, I'll go too," Yi Yao said anxiously. "Meow." At this moment, Yin Beast Noni, who was squatting by their feet, suddenly stood up and let out a soft meow. Then, the sound of wind breaking could be heard rushing toward them. Everyone's heart lit up. "He's back," Shifengzi said. "Big Brother Chu Hen." Yi Yao also shouted happily. Swoosh! A thick and hot cyclone rushed towards them, and Chu Hen landed in front of them. Looking at Chu Hen's gloomy face, everyone immediately stopped smiling. "What's wrong? What happened?" Long Xuanxuang asked softly. Chu Hen shook his head slightly. "Nothing, I met a few unreasonable guys." "Oh? Who are they?" Han Ichuan asked. "I don't know them, but their cultivation is very strong." Chu Hen looked a little cold, and at the same time, he looked elsewhere, trying to find traces of the three people. They couldn't help but be shocked, and it was obvious that Chu Hen had suffered a lot. Shifengzi said, "It's good that you came back safely." The others also nodded in admiration. "Senior Shifeng is right, it's good that you are safe." Long Xuanxuang paused slightly and then asked, "How was it? Did you find the clues you wanted?" This was also the question that the others were concerned about. However, Chu Hen shook his head blankly. No, Mengchang shouldn't have appeared in such a place. He was a little disappointed, but it seemed reasonable. Shifengzi shook his head. "No news is good news, let's go back first." When they returned to Hidden Sky City, it was already close to evening. The sunset dyed half the sky red, and coupled with the turbulence around the Qilin cave, the distant sky looked a little hazy and dreamy. Following the others into the manor, Chu Hen only felt an indescribable fatigue. Hope seemed to be getting slimmer. In the vast world, where was Luo Mengchang? Looking at the silent Chu Hen, everyone felt helpless, and did not know what to do. In the end, it was Shifengzi who broke the calm atmosphere. "I will look for the city lord tomorrow to see if there are any other strange places in the surrounding area other than the Qilin cave." Long Xuanxuang raised her head slightly, looked at Chu Hen and said, "Don't forget about Senior Guyu. Maybe he is in the desolate sword ancient land." Chu Hen smiled slightly. "Don't worry. I won't give up so easily. We have been busy for the whole day, everyone should go and rest." After he finished speaking, Chu Hen gave some simple instructions and left the front courtyard on his own. Night. Sleepless. Gazebo bench, pond moonlight. Chu Hen leaned against the railing, holding a wine pot in his hand. The mellow wine flowed down his throat, and it was especially hot. Chu Hen did not drink much, and some people liked to talk a lot when they were drunk, while others would think a lot. Flowers will bloom again, people will meet again, don't forget yourself. These were the last words that Luo Mengshang said to him. He could only watch helplessly as she was sucked into the space-devouring hole. Every frown, every smile, that dreamy and refined face, kept appearing in Chu Hen's mind. The flowers on the street bloomed and slowly returned. Endless thoughts for her. The wine pot was lying on the ground, and Chu Hen was lying on the bench, his arms behind his head, his eyes slowly closed, and he murmured softly, "The flowers on the roadside are all blooming, and you, where are you?" At the back of the gazebo, a beautiful figure with a cold temperament quietly looked at the slightly drunk young man. Long Xuanxuang pursed her red lips, holding an outer garment in her hands, and her eyes slightly rippled, but she did not know whether she should go forward or not. Late at night, there was a light murmur of water in the quiet pond. In this quiet night, there was suddenly a sweet and light flute sound. It was like cotton, like the autumn wind, cool with a trace of melancholy, straight into a dream. The half-asleep Chu Hen slowly opened his eyes, trying to catch the illusory flute sound. Slowly, the sound became clearer, as if it was lingering in his ears. Chu Hen subconsciously looked to the side, only to see in front of the gazebo, at the end of the long corridor, beside the small pond, a figure in a black robe quietly came into view. Chapter 1103. The melodious sound of the flute disturbed one's dreams. Half asleep and half awake, Chu Hen slowly opened his eyes, and his blurry vision became clear. At the front of the pavilion, at the end of the corridor, beside the lotus pond, a figure dressed in black quietly entered his sight. When he saw that person, Chu Hen's pupils suddenly trembled. "Senior Guyu?" He suddenly flipped himself up from the bench, and with 2 steps, he crossed more than 10 meters, instantly arriving beside that figure. The sound of the flute stopped abruptly, and Long Xuanxuang, who was standing behind him, was also stunned. Then, he quickly walked forward as well. "Senior Guyu, it's really you." The familiar aura was still as indifferent as before, and the side of his face, which was shrouded in black, had a dreamy whiteness under the moonlight. Chu Hen's gaze was a little anxious. Guyu turned around, holding a jade flute in his hand, and remained silent. Chu Hen frowned slightly, and looking at the person who was alone, The anxiety in his eyes gradually turned into loneliness. I still haven't found Mengchang. His deep voice was a little dry and hoarse. Even from the immortal and devil tomb to the Chilan cave today, Chu Hen could be said to have escaped from death, but compared to finding Luo Mengchang, these were not worth mentioning. The bright moonlight shone on Chu Hen's body, and his profile was as deep as a stone statue. Looking at this young man in his 20s, Gu Yu nodded slightly and said in a low voice, "I've already found her, Rumble." His heart, which had fallen into a swamp, immediately set off a monstrous wave. The dark night sky seemed to have a bright and beautiful meteor streaking across. Chu Hen's eyes revealed a bright light. "Really? Senior, you're not lying to me?" Long Xuan immediately walked to the side of the two, and her phoenix eyes revealed a look of anticipation. "It's true," Gu Yu said confidently. "Then where is she? Why didn't he come with you?" Chu Hen's emotions were very agitated, even his hands were trembling. His gaze swept the surroundings, trying to find the figure that haunted his dreams. "It's not that I don't want to come, but that I can't come." "Why?" Chu Hen clenched his fists, and his expression became anxious again. "What happened to Mengchang? Or was he injured? Senior, where is she?" Looking at the agitated Chu Hen, Long Xuan tried to calm him down. "Don't be anxious. Let Senior finish." Chu Hen let out a deep breath, doing his best to pacify the fluctuations in his heart. After pausing for a moment, Gu Yu quietly explained, "You can rest assured, her body and mind are as good as before. However, due to the long period of time spent in the space-devouring cave, it caused a lot of external energy to fuse into her true essence, Violet Palace. There are good and bad energies, but there are very few negative impurities. What about the consequences? What will happen?" Chu Hen asked in a deep voice. "The consequences are that it will affect the original process of strengthening her bloodline." Back in the Saint Star dynasty, Chu Hen already knew that Luo Mengchang had a powerful bloodline called the Nine Nether Saint Body. Gu Yu's appearance was also because Luo Mengchang's bloodline power was not stable enough. If it affected the bloodline limit, then this matter was definitely not to be underestimated. The process that I set for her previously can no longer be used. I have to perfect a new plan before she can't control the many energies in her body. Although Gu Yu's words were very subtle, Chu Hen and Long Xuan could still hear the urgency in his voice. It was hard to imagine what had happened to Luo Mengchang. "I'll go with you," Chu Hen said decisively. However, Gu Yu replied calmly, "You know I won't bring you along. Why? I have my own things to do, and you also have your own path to walk. To be honest, if it wasn't for Mengchang, I wouldn't be willing to come here to see you." As soon as he finished speaking, there was a moment of silence. Chu Hen didn't know how to answer. At the same time, Shifeng Zi, Yi Yao, Han Ichuan, and Xiao Shaowan also arrived outside the pavilion when the two of them were talking. They looked at each other and felt comforted. Although they didn't see Luo Mengchang, at least they knew that she was safe. After a moment of silence, Chu Hen's emotions also calmed down. He looked at Gu Yu, who was shrouded in black, and said with a deep gaze, "Can I see her?" Everyone's eyes fell on Gu Yu. The latter hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Then Gu Yu turned sideways and raised one hand. Buzz, in an instant, a strange wave of energy surged out of his body. With a flash of white light, a scroll that emitted an ancient aura quietly fell into her palm. Then, with a wave of her hand, the scroll opened up. The airflow in the air accelerated rapidly, and a series of complicated runes and spells covered the scroll. "That is?" Everyone's heart skipped a beat, and they all revealed a look of surprise. Looking at the ancient runes and numbers drawn on the scroll, even Shifeng Zi couldn't help but narrow his eyes. Even though he had reached the level of a grandmaster, he couldn't understand where those runes came from. Then, Gu Yu clapped her palms together, and powerful true essence energy immediately spread out. At the same time, a dazzling rune spread out along the scroll in all directions. In the blink of an eye, a gorgeous rune formation formed in the sky above the pavilion. The rune formation flowed, and fluorescent light overflowed. The rune formation in the heart of the formation was like an open trigram door, and locks pulled open one after another, releasing dazzling light patterns, buzz buzz. Accompanied by a heavy airwave, the center of the rune formation showed a rotating and distorted state. The space slowly shattered like a small wormhole. She is not in a conscious state, you only have half an hour, Guyu warned. Chu Hen nodded solemnly, thank you. Then, his body moved, turning into a beam of white light, and jumped into the distorted vortex. Hua! The dazzling brilliance was fleeting, as if he had passed through a door in the night. Chu Hen steadily landed on the ground, and in front of him was an ancient Tao platform. The environment was hazy, revealing a trace of darkness. The stars in the sky were vast, and the universe was endless. It was like an independent space suspended among the stars of the 9 heavens. The 4 sides of the Tao platform were stairs, and in the middle stood 9 stone pillars. Every stone pillar was tens of meters tall, and the pillars were painted with many ancient patterns that flickered with a dark luster. Between the stone pillars, there was a thick iron chain, and a dense soft light lingered on the iron chain, like a powerful ancient seal. Chapter 1104. The misty soft light was like a star shining on the world. The 9 stone pillars were connected by iron chains, swaying with dark ancient patterns. This was a strange platform that seemed to be suspended in the vast starry sky. There was nothing in all directions, just like chaos. When Chu Hen saw the dreamlike and illusionary slender figure sitting quietly in the middle of the Tao platform, his heart and his eyes could not help but tremble. The flowers on the street were blooming, slowly returning. During this period of time, how many times had he passed by the beautiful scenery along the way, but it was not even 1,000th of the beauty in front of him. Chu Hen smiled, but his eyes were involuntarily wet. He gently stepped forward and walked toward the stone platform in the center. On the stone platform, the figure that haunted people's dreams touched their hearts. Luo Mengchang sat quietly in the center of the platform with her eyes closed. Her breath was even, her white dress was like snow, and her beautiful long hair was draped over her back. She was so serene that people could not bear to disturb her. Under her was a strange array. The lines of the array shone with a spiritual light. The talisman formation was connected to the 9 stone pillars on the Tao platform, forming a kind of complicated restriction that was similar to a seal. Very quickly, Chu Hen walked onto the platform and stepped into the talisman formation. Buzz! A faint light pattern swept out from beneath Chu Hen's feet. At the same time, the 9 pillars of light in the surroundings glowed with a bright and beautiful color. In an instant, strand after strand of light converged towards Luo Mengchang, rapidly forming a layer of faintly discernible feather cloak around her body. Chu Hen carefully squatted down in front of Luo Mengchang, kneeling in front of her, looking at that delicate, flawless, and beautiful face. After countless times of imagining meeting again, the other party finally came. Chu Hen's body faintly trembled, and his eyes were already red. That day, she was like a butterfly that protected him, slowly disappearing in front of him. She was willing to sacrifice her life for him. For her, he turned into a demon and buried the lives of millions of people. One without resentment, one without regret. Feeling Luo Mengchang's familiar aura, Chu Hen pursed his lips and smiled, while 2 lines of tears quietly flowed down his cheeks. He gazed at her beautiful face, his eyes filled with tenderness as he murmured softly, "Mengchang, I missed you so much." Even if there were as many words as the sea in his heart, perhaps there were as many thoughts as the stars in the sky in his mind, it couldn't compare to those 4 simple words. Chu Hen slowly lowered his head and said in a deep voice, "I'm sorry." "Why did you say, 'I'm sorry'?" The soft voice was like a butterfly invading a dream, tugging at every heartstring. Chu Hen's heart was startled and he suddenly raised his head. His trembling pupils reflected a pair of eyes that were as lovely and moving as autumn water. Astonishment, accident, and a pleasant surprise that caught him off guard. Chu Hen's face was full of disbelief. The corners of Luo Mengchang's mouth curled up slightly, revealing a faint smile. She gently held Chu Hen's cheeks with both hands, her beautiful eyebrows filled with gentleness. It's strange, isn't it? I'm also very strange. I always wanted to sleep before, but why am I not sleepy this time? Her gentle words were like a veil brushing against his ear, touching his heart. Looking at the beautiful smile that was so close to him, Chu Hen already felt that everything he had done before was not worth mentioning. I'm sorry. Chu Hen still repeated the same sentence. Luo Mengchang shook her head gently. She held Chu Hen's cheek with one hand and gently brushed his hair with the other. It's okay, no matter what you did wrong, I won't blame you. After saying that, Luo Mengchang leaned her forehead against Chu Hen's forehead, her eyes glowing with a faint soft light. I'm sorry that we have to say goodbye after just meeting. Flowers bloom on the road, wait for my return. Next time, it's my turn to look for you. Her voice was as soft as water, as clear as a dream. Luo Mengchang's red lips softly kissed Chu Hen's lip. Immediately after, the talisman array below her released a dazzling light, the runes on the 9 stone pillars emitted a strong rhythm, and countless strange optical fibers interweaved to form a light, surrounding Luo Mengchang's body. She closed her eyes again, and fell into a deep sleep. Chu Hen maintained his kneeling position without moving, then nodded deeply. I'll wait for your return. Night. It had yet to fade. At this moment, Chu Hen's heart had already calmed down. Because of Gu Yu's arrival, the others also completely relaxed. Senior, when are you leaving? Chu Hen asked. I'll leave at daybreak, Gu Yu replied. Everyone was not surprised. Although they did not have much contact with Gu Yu, they could basically confirm that he was a person who liked to be alone. Chu Hen nodded, looking like he wanted to say something but was hesitant. Gu Yu turned slightly, but said to Shifeng Zi, Han Ichuan, and the others, I have something to say to him. Everyone was startled, then immediately understood and turned to leave. Soon, only Chu Hen and Gu Yu were left in the pavilion. The second half of the night was exceptionally quiet, even the sound of insects could not be heard. Seeing that Gu Yu did not speak for a long time, Chu Hen asked, Senior? Don't you have something to say to me? However, Gu Yu faintly replied, I should be the one asking you that question. Chu Hen was stunned at first, then reacted. The other party saw that he had something to ask, but it was not convenient for him to say it, so he took the initiative to dissuade the others. While marveling at the other party's attentiveness, he was also grateful. After a short moment of hesitation, Chu Hen's expression gradually became solemn. He stared at Gu Yu cautiously, and said in an incomparably deep tone, Senior, do you know my background? Gu Yu raised her head slightly, and could not help but feel a little surprised. She was very surprised that Chu Hen would actually ask such a question. Why are you asking me this? I feel that you might know. Chu Hen slightly frowned. Meng Shang is too similar to me. We were both adopted since we were young, and we both have the bloodline limit of the saint body. Moreover, we both have a mysterious person by our side. Chu Hen enunciated each and every word with great emphasis. The mysterious person he was talking about was naturally the person who had the same eyes as him, Li Wu Shang. Along the way, from the Saint Star Empire to the Midlands Qinxing Province, the question that was hidden in Chu Hen's heart became increasingly clear. If he was merely an abandoned baby picked up by Long Zhan's family, he really could not convince himself. If that's the case, then you should ask that mysterious person, not me. Gu Yu replied indifferently. Chu Hen shook his head. I can't find him, or rather, he doesn't want me to find him. So, I want to ask you if you know anything about me? I can't help you. Gu Yu's answer was unusually straightforward. Moreover, I don't know the mysterious person you're talking about. I know. Chu Hen's eyes were instantly filled with loneliness. This feeling of not knowing anything was really unpleasant. He could not tell everyone on the street that he had the bloodline limit of the demon pupil Saint Body. Other than the clue of Li Wushang, there seemed to be no other clues. At this moment, Guyu suddenly said, Chapter 1105. If you really have no other way, then go to the martial sect. Guyu said in an indifferent tone. Martial sect? Chu Hen could not help but be startled as he looked at her in surprise. What is that place? A large sect with thousands of years of heritage, a large sect? Chu Hen raised his brows and asked with a hint of expectation, Is this sect related to me? However, Guyu shook her head and denied it. She tilted her head and looked at the moon as a few strands of her beautiful long hair slid down her neck. Guyu said, The martial sect has a treasure called the Time Wheel. Time Wheel? Chu Hen muttered softly with a hint of surprise in his eyes. The Time Wheel can make the past reappear. If you can borrow the Time Wheel, you can trace back to the past and see what happened in the past. Really? Chu Hen was surprised and could not help but clench his fists. There's such a magical treasure in this world? The 3,000 worlds are full of wonders. Your horizons still need to be broadened. Guyu said indifferently. Senior is right. This is the first time I've heard of a treasure that can make people trace back to the past. I can't help but be a little excited. Looking at Chu Hen's loss of composure, Guyu sighed softly. She muttered, If possible, I hope that the Time Wheel can erase the past. Some people were depressed because they knew nothing about the past. But some people were sad and happy because their memories were too deep. The whirlpool of fate was silent. The people standing on the shore were unguarded and pulled into it. It was like a bright meteor streaking across the dark night sky. Dawn chased away the curtain of night and the eastern sky quietly lit up. Chu Hen said with a determined gaze, I've decided, I want to go to the martial sect. Then, I wish you good luck. The morning star flickered with light. Morning was coming, which also meant that Guyu was about to leave. Chu Hen's eyes were filled with reluctance for Luo Mengchong. They just met and they had to say goodbye again. But at least Guyu was by his side this time. Senior, I'll leave Mengchong to you, Chu Hen said in a deep voice. Guyu remained silent and walked through the corridor, gradually disappearing into the darkness of dawn. In the quiet pavilion, the corner of Chu Hen's mouth raised into an arc. At this moment, his heart, which had been stretched taut for so long, could finally relax. Wu Zong. Chu Hen's eyes flashed with sharpness. What? You want to go to the martial sect? What is that place? Big brother Chu Hen, aren't we going back to the East Continent? In the lobby, everyone was surprised and puzzled by what Chu Hen had just mentioned. Chu Hen smiled at Yi Yao and said, I won't go back to the East Continent for the time being. After all, Mu Feng and Haozi are still in the demon region. Then, he looked at Xiao Shaowan and continued, I will help you find the ancestral butterfly clan first, then go to the martial organization. Ancestral butterfly clan? What the hell is this? Shi Fengzi's head was filled with question marks. Long Xuanshuang's face was filled with confusion. Yi Yao hurriedly explained, You guys don't know yet, right? Shaowan is actually an ancestral butterfly, she's not a human. Yi Yao and Xiao Shaowan were very close. When they were on the flowing cloud golden boat, the two girls often huddled in the same room and chatted. At that time, Xiao Shaowan had told Yi Yao the secret that she was not a human. As Xiao Shaowan's best friend, she had told Yi Yao that the fox of Green Hill, Jun Jianga, had called her an ancestral butterfly the night before. Therefore, only Shifeng Zi and Long Xuanshuang did not know each other's true identity. Ancestral butterfly? Interesting. Shifeng Zi shook his head and smiled. Then, he squinted his old eyes and stared at Han Ichuan. The latter felt goosebumps all over his body and could not help but reply, Why are you looking at me? I'm a real human. Everyone smiled. Long Xuanshuang then asked, The martial organization should be a big sect, right? Chu Hen shook his head. So far, I know nothing about the martial organization, but I must go. Ha 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 ha, who's going to the martial organization? At this moment, a hearty laughter suddenly came from the front gate. At the same time, there was a series of steady footsteps. Everyone was stunned. Shifeng-zi then said, "It's the city lord." After that, Shifeng-zi took the lead to go out to welcome him. Chu-hen and the others followed closely behind. Then, they saw an extraordinary, noble, middle-aged man in a gorgeous robe step through the door. The man's facial features were square, and his eyebrows revealed a righteous aura. Even his steps gave people a feeling of majesty. Behind him followed a few attendants, all of whom had sharp eyes and steady footsteps. This person was none other than the city lord of Hidden Sky City, Zhao Xuanxiong. "Haha, welcome brother Zhao, I hope you don't blame me for not going out to welcome you." Shifeng-zi cupped his fists and his voice was equally loud. Zhao Xuanxiong smiled. "Brother Shifeng, you're too polite. There's no need to be so polite between us. I wonder if you're used to living here? Do you need me to move you to a bigger residence? If you're not used to it, I'm afraid you'll have to live in Brother Zhao's City Lord mansion. If that's the case, it'll be even better. It'll be much more convenient for me to ask Brother Shifeng about runes, ha ha ha." It could be seen that City Lord Zhao Xuanxiong was very polite to Shifeng-zi. However, this politeness was not due to etiquette, but a kind of easygoing atmosphere. "Hey, a few more young friends have come." Zhao Xuanxiong looked at Chu-hen and the others behind Shifeng-zi. He had seen Yi Yao and Long Xuanxuang before, but it was the first time he saw Chu-hen, Han Ichuan, and Qiao Shaowan. Shifeng-zi smiled. "Haha, this old man only likes to deal with young people, so that I won't be as lifeless as those old fellows who are about to die." At the same time, Chu-hen and the others also cupped their fists and bowed. "Junior Chu-hen greets the city lord. Haha, good." Zhao Xuanxiong waved his hand and looked at Chu-hen with approval. "You were the one who said you wanted to enter the martial ancestor realm, right?" "That's me." "Tsh, with that little strength, you still want to enter the martial ancestor realm?" A disdainful voice quietly sounded from behind Zhao Xuanxiong. Everyone was taken aback. Zhao Xuanxiong hurriedly smiled apologetically. "I'm sorry, my daughter has been spoiled since she was young, always blabbering." Then he turned and said in a low voice, "Qingyi, Qinkai, come up and greet Senior Shifeng." Under the gaze of the crowd, a well-built and handsome young man and a beautiful young girl with a reluctant face walked up from behind. "Junior Zhao Qingyi greets Elder West Wind and friends." The man was tall and slender, his eyes modest and courteous, quite similar to his father Zhao Xuanxiong's character. Zhao Qinkai, on the other hand, pouted her lips and unhappily rolled her eyes at Chu-hen. Then, she only bowed to Shifeng-zi. "Junior Zhao Qinkai greets Senior Shifeng." "Haha, very good, very good." Shifeng-zi nodded approvingly. "Brother Zhao is really lucky. A pair of sons and daughters are better than dragons and phoenixes. These two children's cultivation must have reached the ancient eternal stage." Ancient eternal stage? Behind Shifeng-zi, Han Ichuan, Yi Yao and the rest were all secretly amazed. No wonder Zhao Qinkai looked down on them. He did have the qualifications to do so. Zhao Xuanxiong smiled and nodded, his eyes filled with pride. "Oh right, I wonder why Brother Zhao has come personally?" Shifeng-zi inquired. "Haha, I'm just passing by here, so I came to see Brother Shifeng." "Passing by?" Shifeng-zi was taken aback, then looked at the other party's attire and asked subconsciously, "Could it be that Brother Zhao is leaving the city?" "That's right," Zhao Xuanxiong affirmed, then looked at Chu-hen. "Martial ancestor." Everyone was stunned. Martial ancestor was mentioned again. Chu-hen revealed a puzzled expression. Chapter 1106. What a coincidence, I was just about to send my son and daughter to participate in the Martial Ancestor Disciple Entrance Examination. The mayor of Hidden Sky City, Zhao Xuanxiong said with a gentle smile. "What?" As soon as he said this, Chu-hen, Shifeng-zi and the others were all surprised. Zhao Qinkai, who was behind Zhao Xuanxiong, hurriedly exclaimed, "Dad, who said we're going to the martial ancestor? I'm going to the Han Yun clan or the Qi Shao pavilion." "I thought you two haven't decided yet," Zhao Xuanxiong said. "But you can't make the decision for me and my brother, can you?" Zhao Qingkai pouted in protest. Her cute face was also quite cute. "So what if it's a martial ancestor? It's a top-grade martial institution with 5 or 6,000 years of history. Although it started later than the Han Yun clan and the Qi Shao pavilion, it completely relied on itself to develop step by step. In the chaotic Midland, the martial ancestor was able to achieve what it had today, which was enough to prove that it was not an ordinary martial institution. If you two go there to cultivate, I'll be more at ease. But the competition in the martial ancestor is too fierce. What if I get bullied? Moreover, the elders of the Han Yun clan and the Qi Shao pavilion are your good friends. My brother and I will be treated better there." Zhao Qingkai still did not agree. Zhao Xuanxiong shook his head and sighed. "Because of this, I decided to choose the martial ancestor. Only a difficult environment can create a truly powerful person. Of course, if you really don't want to, I won't force you." Although Zhao Xuanxiong was the mayor of a city, he did not want to force his children in front of him. Seeing this, as the elder brother, Zhao Qingyi, took the lead. "Father, I'm willing to go to the martial ancestor." Zhao Qingkai especially glared at her brother, muttering in her heart, "We agreed to go together. Why did you change your mind so suddenly?" Since her brother was going to the martial ancestor, Zhao Qingkai naturally would not go to the Han Yun clan or the Qi Shao pavilion alone. She also said unwillingly, "Let's go then. I'm not afraid. I'm just afraid that some people can't even pass the examination and still talk big here." After saying that, Zhao Qingkai even gave Chu Hen a sidelong glance. In her opinion, Zhao Xuanxiong must have unintentionally heard Chu Hen say that he wanted to go to the martial sect, which was why he changed his mind midway. Although the truth had nothing to do with Chu Hen. Shifeng Zi looked up and said, "Brother Zhao, where is the entrance examination for those who are not Wuzongs held?" This sentence was asked on behalf of Chu Hen. 3 days later, Flying Cloud City. Zhao Xuanxiong replied. Then, he smiled and said, "If you have decided to go, I can bring you along. 3 days? So fast?" Chu Hen lightly wrinkled his brows, then asked, "City Lord, may I know when the test will end?" Zhao Xuanxiong was slightly surprised and asked, "Could it be that this little friend has something else to say? I think he's scared." Zhao Qingkai teased softly. Chu Hen nodded and looked at Xiao Shaowan, who was beside him. Her identity as the ancestral butterfly was almost confirmed. Chu Hen planned to help Xiao Shaowan find the nest of the ancestral butterfly clan first, then go to the martial sect. He didn't expect time to be so tight. This put Chu Hen in a difficult position. After a moment of hesitation, Chu Hen made up his mind and said, "Forget it, I'll wait for next time." Everyone was stunned. Such a good opportunity was right in front of him, but he actually gave it up? Xiao Shaowan naturally knew what Chu Hen was thinking. She said softly, "It's fine, you can take the examination first. I've waited for almost 20 years, I'm not in a hurry." However, Chu Hen shook his head firmly. Back in the Immortal and Devil Tomb, Xiao Xiaowan's state was very unstable. At that time, when she transformed into her original form, she almost killed Han Ichuan. According to the Green Hill Fox Monarch song, the ancestral butterfly was an ant when it was young and turned into a butterfly when it grew up. Only after going through metamorphosis could it become a real ancestral butterfly. If Xiao Xiaowan's instability stemmed from the mutation of her metamorphosis, there might be all sorts of uncertain variables during this period. Although this was only Chu Hen's guess, if Xiao Shaowan lost control again, it would cause all sorts of trouble. Just as Chu Hen was about to give up, Shifeng Zi asked casually, "Brother Zhao, how is the martial sect examination conducted?" The few of them were stunned and looked at each other in shock. Zhao Xuanxiong nodded. The way to carry out the mission. Can you be more specific? The format is very simple. You go to Flying Cloud City to collect the mission token. As long as you complete the mission within the stipulated time and report to the Martial Sect, you'll pass the examination. In other words, during the period of carrying out the mission, you can move around freely? Of course, Zhao Xuanxiong affirmed. With that, Shifeng Zi turned to Chu Hen. Chu Hen naturally understood what he meant. After collecting the mission token from the Martial Sect, he could send Xiao Shaowan back to the ancestral butterfly clan at the same time. This way, there would be no delay on either side. Haha! At this moment, Zhao Qingkai covered her mouth and laughed. You guys are thinking too much. The Martial Sect examination is very difficult, and you want to save time to do other things? You must be joking. Zhao Qingyi immediately nudged him with her elbow. Don't be so rude. The atmosphere on both sides was a little awkward. At this moment, Chu Hen looked at the city lord Zhao Xuanxiong with a resolute tone. I beg the city lord to bring me to Flying Cloud City with you. No one was surprised that he changed his decision in an instant. Except for Zhao Qingyi and Zhao Qingkai. The latter snorted softly and muttered to herself. Humph, if you don't listen to me, I'll see how you embarrass yourself. Zhao Xuanxiong's brows carried a hint of praise as he pointed to the door. Our cloud boat is parked outside the residence. If there's nothing else, let's go. Everyone nodded in agreement. Without any hesitation. As the entourage of the city lord left the courtyard, the first thing that caught their eyes were a few majestic unicorn pegasi that exuded a pure and holy aura. Their bodies were as white as snow, without a single trace of impurity on their fur. Each unicorn Pegasus was 7 to 8 meters tall and had a pair of wings on its back, giving off an elegant and noble feeling. Behind the unicorn Pegasus was a luxurious boat. The boat had no roof and was completely open. There was a lot of space on it, and it could accommodate hundreds of people at once. 2 attendants of the city lord walked to the inside of the boat, opened the side door and lowered the stairs. Zhao Xuanxiong raised his hand towards Shifeng Zi. Brother Shifeng, please. Brother Zhao, please. Soon, Chu Hen's entourage followed the entourage of the city lord and boarded the cloud boat. Accompanied by a loud and beautiful neigh, a few unicorn Pegasi's hooves stirred up the wind, and they stepped on balls of green wind under their feet. With light footsteps, they gradually rose into the air and dragged the ship into the sky. At the same time, dazzling runes appeared on the body of the cloud boat. The runes intertwined and flickered as bright as stars. In the blink of an eye, a light barrier that was as thin as a veil enveloped the entire boat like a bubble. Even so, the cool air and wind were not completely blocked. The cool breeze seemed to pass through the hull. While feeling the refreshing air in the sky, they could also overlook the land of the city, which inevitably made them feel relaxed and happy. The citizens of Hidden Heaven's city raised their heads to look. That's the cloud boat of the city lord's mansion. It seems that the city lord has personally come out. Haha, that's right. The newcomer assessment of the various sects is about to begin. Young city lord and second miss will naturally enter the true martial arts holy lands to cultivate. They should be going to the Han Yun sect or the Qixiao pavilion. The martial sect probably won't go there. The waters there are too deep. Which first-rate sect's waters aren't deep? Every sect's waters are deep, but I feel that the martial sect is too chaotic. On the cloud boat, it was like a gorgeous open-air teahouse. The entourage of the city lord's mansion guarded the corners of the boat with vigilance. They were like eagles in the sky, constantly on guard against any sudden situations. Compared to them, the others were much more relaxed. City Lord Zhao Xuanxiong and Shifeng Zi sat on top of the boat. The former would dip his index finger in tea from time to time and draw a few strange runes and numbers on the table. He would ask the other party questions. Father is asking someone to teach him the art of runes again. He obviously doesn't have the slightest bit of talent to be a rune master, but he's still so diligent. Zhao Qingkai and his sister were sitting together, and she said with disdain. Zhao Qingyi smiled. Father has been obsessed with the art of runes since he was young. Although he doesn't have much talent in this area, he can still make up for it with hard work. That's not called obsession, it's called obsession. Last time, he was full of confidence about raising the grade of the family's inherited divine equipment. In the end, it backfired and he destroyed the divine equipment. If grandfather knew about this, he would definitely jump out of his coffin in anger. Zhao Qingyi was a little speechless. Her sister's mouth was really a little poisonous. However, what she said was also the truth. Zhao Xuanxiong was indeed very obsessed with the art of runes. However, there weren't many outstanding rune masters in Hidden Sky City. It was even more impossible to find one that had the ability to touch upon the level of divine equipment. This time, he was fortunate enough to meet Shifeng Zi, which made Zhao Xuanxiong extremely happy. In just a few short days, the two of them had become teachers and friends, and were quite amiable. Big brother Chu Hen, big sister Xuanshuang and I have also decided to follow you to the martial sect, Yi Yao said seriously while caressing the head of the yin-yang beast, Noni. Chu Hen smiled faintly and nodded. Han Ichuan, who was at the side, was silent. He looked at Qiao Shaowan, who was not far away. Compared to the lively Qiao Shaowan in the past, she was getting quieter and quieter, intentionally or unintentionally. Everyone could sense traces of manic energy fluctuations coming from the other party's body. It was like an undercurrent brewing in the deep sea, becoming increasingly turbulent and restless. The sun and the moon rotated, and the stars alternated. The unicorn flying dragon shuttled through the void of the 9 heavens on a cloud boat, and the many beautiful mountains and rivers of the Qinxing province appeared one by one below. For cultivators, there wasn't much difference between 3 days and 6 hours. They traveled for 3 days, and in the morning, a majestic city built on the peak of a mountain range appeared in everyone's sight. It was like a city in the clouds. Cloud boats came from all directions, and they looked like eagles soaring in the sky. The imposing high-rise castles stood tall like a multitude of peaks. Looking from afar, the flying cloud city was densely packed with people, and it was extraordinarily lively. Beams of fireworks bloomed in the sky, dazzling everyone. Many young figures with extraordinary auras gathered in the flying cloud city. Under the vigorous vitality, they showed off their sharpness. Chapter 1107. Bang, 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 a gorgeous rain of fireworks bloomed in the sky. It was a riot of colors, dazzling to the eyes. The luxurious cloud boats that were sailing in the void were like giant beasts shuttling through the clouds, and they were peerless in style. Flying Cloud City stood at the top of the mountains, like stars surrounding the moon, displaying its majestic momentum. This Flying Cloud City really lives up to its name. It's in between the clouds. Even Shi Fengzi was amazed and nodded his head in praise. Every building and pavilion in the city soared into the clouds. Every blade of grass and every tree had the aura of overlooking the earth. It was very unique. Zhao Xuanxiong smiled. Brother Shifeng is right. When I first came to this Flying Cloud City, I also thought it was quite spectacular. Haha, no wonder we came here on a cloud boat. If it was an ordinary boat, I'm afraid we wouldn't even be able to reach the city gate. Shifeng Zi laughed. Then, they parked the cloud boat in an open space outside the city, and entered the city together. Flying Cloud City was especially lively. People came and went, bustling with activity. Everyone was heading in the same direction. The city center square. Following the flow, Chu Hen and the others soon entered the city center under the lead of Zhao Xuanxiong and the others. 4 large red carpets extended toward the center of the square like a road. The noisy crowd gathered here. The spacious square was built very majestically. Rows upon rows of luxurious and imposing pavilions were located on the periphery of the square. The square was clearly layered, with a wide central platform built in the middle. There were 2 strange black stone tablets erected on the high platform. The stone tablets were nearly 10 meters tall, one on the left and one on the right, side by side. The deep luster gave off a simple and unadorned aura. In addition to the complicated patterns on the stone tablets, there were also glowing gems inlaid on them. The stone tablet on the left was inlaid with 9 gems. The 9 gems were of different colors and were arranged vertically. However, the stone tablet on the right was slightly more complicated. The stone tablet on the right was divided into 2 parts. The lower part was inlaid with 3 gems, forming a triangle around the word Xian. The words were bold and fierce, and every stroke was like the edge of a blade. The upper part was also inlaid with 3 gems, surrounding the word Xing. Looking at the 2 peculiar stone tablets, many of the younger generation below the high platform were slightly moved. "What is that?" Han Nichuan asked casually. "You don't even understand this?" Zhao Qingkai glanced at him with slight disdain and replied indifferently, "Of course it's for test? Chu Hen and the others were puzzled. Didn't they say that as long as they received the mission card and completed the assigned mission, they would be able to pass the assessment? City Lord Zhao Xuanxiong saw their confusion and smiled. This is a basic assessment done by the martial sect for the disciples participating in the assessment. Its main purpose is to understand the potential value of the newcomers. It's normal. Shifengzi nodded. What's the content of the review? Chu Hen asked. There are 2. Zhao Xuanxiong extended 2 fingers from his left hand and replied clearly, Martial arts talent, bloodline limit, martial arts talent? Bloodline limit? The others were even more astonished. How is martial arts talent assessed? Han Nichuan showed a puzzled look. Martial arts talent is a comprehensive assessment. It includes the strength of one's true yuan, the stability of one's foundation, the ability to control one's strength, and so on. The comprehensive assessment of each ability determines whether one's martial arts talent is strong enough. Facing the questions of the younger generation, as the city lord, Zhao Xuanxiong was not annoyed at all. Instead, he answered patiently with a gentle attitude. Martial arts talent is usually divided into 9 levels. Level 1 is the lowest and level 9 is the highest. Of course, there are a few top-notch martial arts geniuses who can reach a level 9 martial arts talent. Even in the Midland, where there are so many talented people like that are extremely rare. The few of them listened attentively. They were all secretly surprised. Then how do we assess bloodline limit? Yi Yao asked curiously. You don't know how to read? Zhao Qingkai seemed a little dissatisfied. It was one thing for Zhao Xuanxiong to be so polite to Shifengzi, but these younger generation kept asking questions. He was really annoyed. He pointed at the stone tablet on the right side of the stage and said, Below it is the Xian body, above it is the Saint body. The lowest standard for a martial sect to accept a new disciple is the Xian body. If you can't even reach this standard, then don't even think about it. As he finished, Zhao Qingkai glanced at Chu Hen and the others with a little disdain. I'm just asking. Why are you so fierce? Yi Yao pouted and retorted without showing any weakness. Who's fierce? It's you guys who were too noisy on the way here. All right, stop arguing. You're making a fool of yourself. Zhao Qingyi hurriedly pulled her sister back. Chu Hen also pulled Yi Yao slightly, trying to dissuade her. However, Zhao Xuanxiong and Shifengzi did not mind the bickering of the 2 girls. They looked at each other and smiled, not saying anything. It was normal for young people and little girls to quarrel with each other. From this, one could see Zhao Xuanxiong's magnanimity. Chu Hen could not help but feel a little more respect for the person in front of him. Ha, Governor Zhao, what took you so long? You made me wait for so long. At this moment, a hearty laughter sounded. From the inner side of the square, a middle-aged man with an extraordinary bearing walked out. He was dressed in a jade robe and had a crown on his head. His eagle-like eyes were filled with sharpness. Zhao Xuanxiong's eyes lit up and he cupped his fists. Ha, Governor Yun, long time no see. How have you been? I'm fine, your body is still healthy. Ha. I heard that a few months ago, Governor Zhao destroyed your family's heavenly drawing hook. To be honest, I laughed for an hour at the time. Don't blow up your own house next time with your low level of weapon refinement. Hearing this, Zhao Xuanxiong's eyes could not help but twitch. He cursed this old bastard in his heart. Haha, Governor Yun is right. However, the heavenly drawing hook has been repaired by this big brother of mine. Moreover, it's much more powerful now. With one strike, it can split your flying cloud city in half. With that, Zhao Xuanxiong pointed at Shi Fengzi and said, Brother Shi Fengzi, let me introduce you. This is the Lord of Flying Cloud City, Lord of Cloud Mountain City. Governor Yun, it's an honor to meet you. Shi Fengzi cupped his fists slightly. Yun Shan was slightly startled and cursed Zhao Xuanxiong for being shameless. Just a second ago, he said that he could split his flying cloud city in half with one strike. In the next second, he said that he had a great future. After cursing and praising him, he suppressed his anger and could not let it out. Even so, Yun Shan still suppressed his displeasure and raised his hand at Shifeng Zi. Brother Shifeng, nice to meet you, you're welcome. To be able to repair a godly weapon, Brother Shifeng is definitely a master. I regret not meeting you earlier. After today's martial ancestor examination, would Brother Shifeng do me the honor and come to my residence for a meal? Everyone was taken aback. This Yun Shan was trying to rope in Shifeng Zi. Zhao Xuanxiong almost scolded him out of anger. However, he could only hold it in for the sake of his face. However, Shifeng Zi smiled gently and said, I'm flattered by Governor Yun's kind invitation. Yun Shan was secretly delighted and hurriedly said with a smile, Haha, after the examination, I'll immediately send someone to prepare a banquet. Zhao Xuanxiong could not help but feel a little discouraged. It was not easy for him to get to know a capable person like Shifeng Zi, but he was dragged away by Yun Shan. However, immediately after, Shifeng Zi squinted his eyes and said with a smile, Brother Zhao, Governor Yun is treating us to a meal we can't refuse. Don't you think so? Zhao Xuanxiong's eyes immediately lit up and he hurriedly reacted, Ha 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 ha, you're right, we can't refuse indeed. Then let's do it this way. After today's matter is over, we'll all go to Governor Yun's residence for a meal. Ha 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 ha. This time, it was Yun Shan's turn to be defeated. He did not intend to invite Zhao Xuanxiong along. However, since he had already said it, he could only generously smile and start cursing in his heart. Ha 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 ha, Governor Yun, Governor Zhao, are you two fighting each other again? Isn't this Governor Zhou? Long time no see, how have you been? Governor Yao is here too, I didn't notice earlier, sorry. Haha, I thought Governor Zhao's children were going to the Han Yun sect. I didn't expect to see you in Flying Cloud City, what a surprise. The few governors of the Qinxing state met one after another, quietly causing quite a stir. The citizens in the city all looked at them with reverence. At the same time, Chu Hen's heart gradually rippled. Every single one of these city lord-level characters was an overlord who controlled the authority of a region. Even so, the younger generations of their families had to participate in the martial ancestor test to enter. It might be a holy land of martial arts. However, it was also a cruel and competitive martial world. The martial world had never been peaceful. Boom! Suddenly, more than 10 deafening salutes exploded in the sky above Flying Cloud City. Petals flew everywhere and tassels danced in the sky. Following that, the crowd on the north side of the square quickly dispersed to the side. On a brightly colored carpet, more than 20 figures with imposing auras gradually walked out, an invisible aura swept over like a tide. The young figures were as stunning as rainbows, and their auras dominated the crowd. It's the genius disciples of the martial ancestor sect. TSK, this aura is really close to that of our governors. Amidst a wave of exclamations and reverence, the group of martial ancestor sect people stepped onto the high platform in the center of the square. Everyone's gazes were gathered on the young figure in the lead. That person exuded an elegant scholarly aura, but the sharpness between his brows was like a curved knife. The strong sharpness and the weak scholarly aura coexisted, making it hard for people to see through him, that is? When they saw that person, the expressions of Han Ichuan and Xiao Shaowan suddenly changed. Even Chu Hen frowned slightly. It's him. That guy is from the martial ancestor sect? You guys know him? Yi Yao looked at Chu Hen and the other two with a puzzled expression. At the same time, there was already an impassioned cheer below the stage. Young Master Qingqing, Young Master Qingqing, Young Master Qingqing, Young Master Qingqing. Chapter 1108. Young Master Qingqing, Shao Alliance. At the sight of Zhang Tai's elegant yet domineering face, the entire Flying Cloud City burst into exclamations at once. Young Master Qingqing is actually in charge of the martial ancestor examination this time. What a surprise! Seeing is believing. I'm lucky to see young Master Qingqing today. This trip was not in vain. The atmosphere was extremely lively. However, Chu Hen's side was a little quiet. It's actually this guy. Han Ichuan shook his head, then looked at Chu Hen and said, "What a coincidence, in the immortal and devil tomb. The geniuses from the various sects arrived one after another. When they fought against the 24 demon blood guards under the Yama King, the 4 geniuses with saint physiques were especially dazzling: Han Yun Sek's heavenly sword finger, Li Yuan Liang; Mystic Yang Palace's fatal elegance, Lu Weiyue; Qixiao Pavilion's 10-feathered demon blade, Li Yanqing. And the last one was young Master Qingqing, Shao Alliance. If it weren't for the timely arrival of these 4 geniuses, the human experts in the Yama King's demon tomb would have all died under the claws of the 24 demon blood guards. When they sent the demon blood guards back to hell, the 4 of them each obtained a soul. Extreme frost storm, heart of thorns, gluttonous feast, 1,000-li desolation. Now that they thought about it, the 4 terrifying powers were still fresh in their memories. It was also the 4 people from the Shao Alliance who managed to turn the situation around and destroy the 24 demon blood guards under the impact of the 4 terrifying powers. It was also because the other party was young Master Qingqing, Shao Alliance. This made Han Ichuan and Xiao Shaowan worried. What should we do? Do you still want to go to the martial ancestor? Han Ichuan asked in a deep voice. As soon as he said that, Long Xuan and Yi Yao, who were already confused, became even more confused. What exactly happened? Do you really know that person? Yi Yao asked. Chu Hen nodded. We met from the side. To be honest, the 2 of them had never come into direct contact. The only side contact was when Bai Qianyu was ambushed and hit by the Xianyuan seal. In a moment of desperation, Chu Hen lent a helping hand. It could barely be considered a side collision. Since that's the case, let's not go to the martial organization. Yi Yao said worriedly. Not going to the martial sect? Chu Hen shook his head firmly. How could this be possible? He smiled and said, "Don't worry. It's not some deep hatred. Maybe he doesn't even remember me." Ha ha! I'm about to die of laughter from all of you. Zhao Qingkai covered his mouth and laughed, his eyes filled with disdain. What deep hatred? Do you guys have a feud with young Master Qingqing? Stop bragging, okay? I'm afraid I'll be amused to death. You! Yi Yao widened her eyes and was about to scold him back, but she was stopped by Chu Hen. What's wrong? Am I right? Zhao Qingkai did not let it go. Zhao Qingyi shook his head helplessly and said in a low voice, "Don't be so rude." With that said, he cupped his fists at Chu Hen and the others. Please don't be angry. My sister doesn't have any ill intentions. Chu Hen nodded slightly, indicating that it was fine. At that moment, the group of people from the martial arts sect, led by the Shao Alliance, stepped onto the VIP seats on the high platform under everyone's gaze. Flying Cloud City's City Lord Yunshan was the first to welcome them. Young Master Xiao, Elder Lu, you're here. Other than Zhao Xuanxiong, the other city lords also went up to greet them politely. I've long heard of young Master Qingqing's name. Now that I've met you, you truly live up to your reputation. Haha, City Lord Zhou is right. With young Master Qingqing in charge of the examination today, I believe there won't be any problems. Towards their praises, Xiao Alliance replied with a warm smile. City Lords, you're overpraising me. This junior doesn't deserve it. However, the examination is about to begin. Let's do this first. That's right, that's right. The examination cannot be delayed. Then, please begin. Soon after, under Yun Shan's arrangements, the famous figures of the drifting star state took their seats one by one. Xiao Alliance said to an old man beside him. Sixth Elder, come and make a preliminary assessment. The old man nodded, then flipped his hand and took out a scroll responsible for registration. He walked to the front of the 2 stone tablets on the high platform. In an instant, the entire plaza automatically quietened down. Everyone's faces revealed intense anticipation and nervousness. I believe everyone here is very clear about the rules of our martial sect. I don't have anything else to say. Let's directly begin the test of martial arts talent and bloodline boundaries. There was no unnecessary nonsense. There wasn't even any unnecessary words. The old man's face was as stiff as the steps at the gate, giving off an invisible sense of oppression. The first one can begin. I'll go first. Before he could finish speaking, a vigorous young figure leaped onto the platform. Heavenly Rock City, he sure. A simple self-introduction. The man rubbed his fists and walked straight to the stone tablet on the left. He stretched out his palms and firmly pressed them against the surface of the tablet. Buzz, along with the slight trembling of the air, a vigorous true essence energy was released from the man's palm and poured into it. The dense true essence energy extended along the surface of the stone tablet, quickly filling the complicated runes on it. Ding! Like the sound of a wine glass colliding, the bottom of the 9 gems instantly lit up. 1, 2, 3, 6, all the way to the 6th gem, like a beam of stars connected in a straight line. All 6 gems bloomed with a gorgeous colorful light, while the remaining 3 were still dim. A commotion broke out below the stage. 6th level martial arts talent, quite high. Among ordinary people, 6th level martial arts talent is indeed not bad. The man withdrew his hands, and the light on the stone tablet gradually dimmed. Then, he walked to the stone tablet on the right. The stone tablet that was more than 10 meters tall was like a stone pillar, and the 2 vigorous words engraved on it also revealed a penetrating chill. Actually, there was no need to test things like bloodline boundaries. After all, everyone was well aware of the limits of their bloodline. However, in order to clearly understand the potential of every new disciple, the sect also included it as one of the evaluation items. Just like before, the man pressed his hands on the stone tablet. An aura that was even more restless than before was released, and a strand of red cyclone flowed out from his fingertip. The red cyclone was like a tiny, agile dragon, flowing back and forth in the middle of the stone tablet. Sacred body? Or Xian body? Everyone had a look of anticipation on their faces. Whoosh! In the next moment, the red cyclone directly entered the Xian character at the bottom of the stone tablet. At the same time, the Xian character was filled, and 2 of the 3 gems beside it lit up. There was a low clamor below the stage. Martial arts talent, 6th level. Bloodline boundary, mid-grade Xian body. An indifferent and calm voice came out of Elder Lu's mouth. As he read, he wrote on the scroll. Next one. It was very calm, and there was no emotional fluctuation at all. This was enough to show that the old man was not satisfied with this result. The man shook his head slightly helplessly, and quietly walked off the stage. Then, the second person went up to the stage impatiently. Junior Li Mu greets Elder Lu. He was polite, with a hint of flattery. The old man did not even bat an eyelid, and was still writing on the scroll. The man walked to the first stone tablet, a little bored, and repeated the behavior of the first person. So that stone tablet can also evaluate the grade of bloodline boundary. I have always been curious about the grade of your bloodline boundary. Han Ichuan whispered in Chu Hen's ear. Chu Hen raised his handsome eyebrows slightly, and smiled as he shook his head. Even the bloodline boundary of the sacred body was divided into different grades. The higher the grade, the stronger the power of the bloodline, and the greater the potential of the body. There was a hint of deep meaning in Chu Hen's eyes. Many thoughts were echoing in his mind. At this moment, the second person's evaluation had ended. Martial arts talent, 5th level. Bloodline boundary, high-grade Xian body,